Welcome to Master the Game. This is episode 5 of RPG Power Hour. Now, in this episode, we have a special guest, and it's Alex, the Golden Buddha. He is also a fellow YouTube content creator, and the reason I brought him on is because in early May, we were talking while creating characters for a Star Wars campaign. And that campaign, by the way, is going to be over on BN Drake's YouTube channel. So head on over, subscribe to him. You'll see him in a lot of other games on this channel as well. Peter from BN Drake is an amazing DM. So go check him out. But anyways, we were talking while creating these Star Wars characters about superhero RPGs, because that's what got me into RPGs. And that is what Alex started running games with. So he used the Marvel Superheroes RPG. And so we talk about that in this episode. We also talk about some of our home games around the time of COVID. We talk about wrapping up campaigns. We talk about current campaign that I am playing in, Out of the Abyss. Some lessons I've learned in that while playing. That is not a stream game, by the way. And things like that. Something else that I want to mention real quick, though, is it is currently Pride Month. It is the month of June. And this episode was filmed mid-May. And I was hoping by now to have recorded a Pride episode of RPG Power Hour. Would still like to do that. So if there's somebody you would like to see on the channel, let me know in the comments below. Hopefully in the next week or two I can get that filmed, edited, and put up on the channel as well. And the other thing I want to mention is recently we had our local Pride event. My wife is the president of Lowell Pride, and so I've been helping a lot through the past month with some things there, whether it's moving tables or moving things out of storage for the event, things like that. My wife's been more busy, so I've had to be with the kids more, just by myself with them. So again, I haven't been able to create the content I've wanted to this past month. So that's why things have been slow, and that's why this episode is so late. A video I was working on, All Time Wrestling, it's a board game, pro wrestling game, a really cool game. There's currently a Kickstarter going on for the next installment, the next addition to the game, where it's, I think, the Extreme Edition. So you got certain wrestlers from old school ECW, for example, as well as, I believe, some more custom, original wrestlers in that game. So that is a video I was working on. Unfortunately, the video files got corrupted, so I got to restart that video, unfortunately. And I will be doing that here very soon. Hopefully that'll go up just a couple days after this. But anyways, at Lowell Pride, I met some great people. Met a guy who was running for Kent County probate judge. Him and his husband were amazing to talk to for a while. I talked to him for about an hour. He plays Dungeons and Dragons. He paints miniatures. He's written a couple sci-fi books. Just a really cool guy that I am happy to now consider a friend. We were talking on Facebook after the fact. I also ran into my friend Eric, who was helping his wife do photography for the event. We were talking about this Chicagoan accent of his current character that he made, and how he's getting his daughter into role-playing games, which is really, really cool to see, since I've done that 3 different times with all 3 of my children. So that was cool. Met a DM who is he was running Thirsty Sword Lesbians, but he is also the DM that runs games at this bar/game library called House Rules here in town. So you can go there and play games and have drinks. I have not been to this place yet. I've been wanting to go there for a while, but got to talk to him for a while, and I believe his wife was there. He ended up running that game. My 9-year-old played in it, and they had a blast. It was kind of like a Star Wars theme, and they had a very good time. So him and the rest of the group were very patient with my 9-year-old, so that was cool to see. I wanted to play in the game, but I was in between being in the room and elsewhere because I have a 6-year-old that I was in charge of for the event. Also met another author who had written a superhero teen couple graphic novels, a 3rd one that's coming to Kickstarter soon. I believe they're called the Z Team. But he also plays Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, he got started during COVID, so that was kind of cool to have those conversations with him. And so I will try to post links to all these things below, by the way. And Lowell Pride is looking to do possibly a monthly game night at one of the affirming churches in town. So there is a chance you might see me in the future, maybe do content from there. Maybe I will be there just playing games. So if you are in West Michigan in the Grand Rapids area and you want to come on out, let me know. Feel free to comment below. Or also join the Lowell Pride Facebook page. Not join, but follow their page for more information about upcoming game nights. With that, I don't think there's anything else to cover here. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode. It is a long one. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. If something comes up that you disagree with or you want to offer some advice to us, feel free to comment that throughout the video. And maybe in a future episode, I will address your comments in a video. So if you have any questions or need help with anything, you can also comment or just join our Discord. All the links should be in the description below. And with that, guys, enjoy the episode. All right, guys, today I am joined by my guest, Alex. He is also a YouTube content creator, and we were making characters for a Star Wars game that we're going to be playing in over on BN Drake's YouTube channel. And while we were doing that, in conversation with Alex, I found out that he had started RPGs with a superhero RPG, and I was like, I have to talk to this guy more. And that right there was when I knew I was going to have him on. So, Alex, please introduce yourself, your YouTube channel, and we'll talk a little bit about your channel to start this show off. So, tell the crowd, the millions watching at home, a little bit about you and your channel.
All right, first off, bro, thanks for having me on, man. It's always fun to collab with like-minded people, and it's always fun to just get on and just talk about stuff that you love. We both love RPGs, and yeah, my name's Alex. A YouTube channel called also known as the Golden Buddha. I used to do RPG horror stories a lot, but then I kind of stopped doing it because you just run into the same stuff. It's just people and just problems. So yeah, I try to do like unboxings,
Yeah.
unboxings, reviews, and like really kind of bring that joy to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's mostly what I do. So
yeah, talking about horror stories all the time can bring a lot of negativity,
it's crazy, like the amount of like negative, because a lot of it, right, usually stems from it's different personalities at the table, right?
Yeah.
Or someone is being an objective creep that has nothing to do with the game, and it's just a person being a creep, and they need to leave, or somebody doesn't have the balls to say like, hey, bro, like, and actually talk about a problem.
Yep.
So, but yeah,
I know what you mean. Yeah, so I've been doing YouTube since 2012, and it's had its definite ups and downs. And I've seen, like, when you do certain types of content, you get some trolls or negative people, or people telling you don't know how to do things right. Like I've experienced it all, throughout the years. But how long have you been doing your YouTube channel?
crap. You know, it was, it's been at least 5 years, at
Okay.
least, I think.
So pre-COVID.
Because I remember, oh yeah, pre-COVID, definitely. No, because like during COVID, like I really got into like tabletops online and stuff because we
Yep.
couldn't. It's crazy. I actually had to cancel a long-running Star Wars game because of COVID. Yeah, man, it hurt my soul, Juice.
I know what
Because
you mean.
we were into we were and the Marvel game I was running too, actually. Dang, it's COVID messed up a lot of things for a lot of people. But yeah, I started this channel for the most pettiest reason. You're not gonna. Well, okay, one, right? Because I kind of just wanted to do something right and keep myself busy. And two, I was listening to Crit Crab, and I
Yep.
was like, man, I could do this. Like it was, this is like wow, I could do this, but better. And so,
So wait. Before we go further, do you think your content is better than Crit Crab?
oh yeah, 100%,
All right,
100%, man.
that's good. That's
That's
good then.
that's like, well, actually, I'll take that back. Immediate backpedal. No, I think my more recent content and the content like the Marvel superheroes review,
Hmm.
why you should play that came out is very good. It's something, and I'm more focused on like making things that I want to watch, I guess.
Yeah.
And I went back and watched it. I was like, you know what? I'd like to watch this.
Yep.
And so I've been focusing on stuff like that. I'm actually working on a review of Gardens of Yin
Okay.
by Emmy Allen, and it's going to be great, dude. It's going to be amazing. But anyways, I'm getting off topic because we're supposed to be talking about superheroes.
Well, we'll
Dude.
we'll get to the superheroes. I do want to hear more about. So your channel originally was horror stories. What do you talk about now?
Oh,
Like you
really
said,
just like
reviews, unboxings.
unboxings, reviews, and of course like stories of the campaigns that I ran and been
Yeah.
in. One that I'm still working on is ESRT, which is like a long running cyberpunk campaign, Cyberpunk 2020. If you're familiar with the game, love it to death.
Okay.
Exploding dice, cyberpunk, cool stuff happening, guns, John Wick style action. It's all fun. Um,
I'm sold.
and, and yeah, it's mostly just that like retellings of like stories because I listen to part of what helped me get into tabletops in general was me listening to Spoonie. If you remember him
I
from the
do.
Spoonie experiment, he had
Yep.
well then you know he had a what you call it, a series called Counter Monkey,
Yep.
and that
Dave from Nerdarchy got a lot of inspiration from Spoonie as well. We used to talk about Spoonie quite a bit.
really
Yeah,
I,
back in the
I
day, like 2014 or something, 2015-ish. We used to talk about Spoonie
yeah
all the time.
yeah they didn't I remember they did a video because he didn't like 5e. He didn't
No,
like
he hated 5e,
Spoonie hated
and that's what
5e.
Dave and I were all like. Dave and I love D&D 5e.
And I was like, 5e is perfectly fine. If I don't understand how he loves second edition A&D AD&D and like hates 5e. I don't
There's a
get
lot
that.
of people like that though. A lot of people. So a lot of
And
people have this
people,
conception that D&D 5e turns you into superheroes, and they like the AD&D because it feels lethal all the time. Like, but 5e is very easy to make it feel lethal. Like without changing any of the rules, it's actually easy to kill your players if you want to be that kind of DM. I'm just saying.
you want. Also, a lot of the like narrative tropes that we see, like okay, and I know this might be a hot take, but a, a lot of the what we like to call railroading and linear modules that 5e that people like to complain about in 5e, a lot of that actually started in second edition.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like because they were tying in stuff with Dragonlance, they were tying in stuff with with the Dark Sun. I got a few Dark Sun novels on my shelf. They're tying stuff in that and trying to make the adventures in that, trying to like fit it in between novels and like you're
Yeah.
helping out Fritz, man. His party is over that way and your adventures tying into this. And it's like, no, but
Yeah.
like can we have our own thing? Like but yeah, for like second edition though, like it's just um also they had updated like character options too, because you had the powers and kits things that you could
Yes.
do.
Yeah, you had like the
And
separate those brown books that were like the
yeah.
Druid's Handbook and this. Because I remember we were playing Keep on the Borderlands, in
Nice.
the caves of whatever. And
Chaos of Chaos.
yeah, my brother-in-law was running it, and he gave so my wife was going to play a druid, and this group like it was me and my wife, and then it was another couple, and then my brother-in-law and his wife. Okay, all family. We also are playing the currently we just wrapped up Tomb of Annihilation with this group where my wife DM'd, and now we're starting a new one where um my brother-in-law's brother-in-law is running Out of the Abyss. So we just started that. We've had a couple sessions. And I've talked about that in some of my videos already, like my last power hour. Because I realized something I did like that I shouldn't have done based on what he's been doing. And I'm like, I will never do that again. And I've done that a lot when I've run modules. But anyways, we played AD&D with them like 10 years ago. The Keep on the Borderlands. And yep, in Mystara. And he handed my wife, who was playing a druid, that brown book and said, yeah, feel free to look in here, da 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 da. Right? So she's like, okay, I want to use this and this. No, you can't use that. Then why'd you hand me this brown book? Because that's too OP. Like, she was not allowed to use anything in there at the end of the day because it was different than what they were used to with the player's handbook of AD&D and all that stuff. So I bought the like reissued green cover books of AD&D to play, and everything in that was fine. So we were able to use the core book only. And yeah, lots of stuff came of that game that kind of irritated me about how some DMs run games. I need someone who allows a little bit more narrative focus, just a little bit. Lets you do things that aren't necessarily in the book. If you want to do something cool, awesome. They don't penalize you for it. And these are things I took away from that campaign very strongly. So,
Definitely.
yeah. And it's like, I like those older games that group had a hard time wrapping their head around 5e when it came out because they were used to AD&D. So my brother-in-law and his wife had only played AD&D ever since the 80s. They had never played a single other RPG. And so in their head, clerics heal, fighters hit things. Like there's
Yeah,
no
they're putting
outside the
people into
box.
these boxes and typecasts.
Yes, like these
Yeah.
are your roles. You're a rogue. Oh, so then you should be checking for traps. Well, no, I made an assassin. Wait, what? You can hit things hard? You don't have to wait 3 rounds hiding in shadows before you can hit something? Like all these things were mind-blowing for them. So that's why in this Out of the Abyss campaign we're playing, I decided to
Mhm.
make a mountain dwarf bard. But I did not let them know my class. And I've been playing
Yeah,
it like a
they're-
fighter, and they didn't know until this last session when I'm like thunder wave and like some other stuff, and they're like, how can you do that? And I'm like, because I hit my shield, and my shield's a war gong, so that's my instrument. But
yeah,
yes,
which again,
boom.
that's super cool. I've never heard of that being done. Like I've
Yeah,
never like if I was like
disguise self to look
man.
like I'm in heavy armor, plate mail. So I'm using like my spells. I just send the DM a text like, "Hey, I'm doing this. Hey, I'm doing this." I cast sleep, and that was the first thing that they went, "How'd you cast sleep?" I was like, "I hit him in the head with my hammer." You know,
See, if I was there, I would have been like, does he have a magic item he's not telling us about?
right, right. But I mean,
That's what I
it
want
was
from.
level 1 right out of the abyss prison. But yeah, it's been fun so far. With some of that, just some things the DM could do differently. That I've told him because I'm that kind of person. I'm like, hey, just so you know, I don't like it when you do this, and I love it when you do this. You know, when we were talking, one of the things we had said was you had started with a superhero game. And the first game I ever got into was also a superhero game back in like 97. So I want to start with
Heroes Unlimited,
yours.
right?
Yeah, I want to start with yours because when we get to mine, I
Really?
think you've got some hot takes. Maybe they're not
Oh
so hot.
man. No, they're gonna be hot, man, because I
Yeah, but most people will probably agree with your takes.
that's fair. So the game I started with is the lovely Marvel Superheroes, also known as MSH. I'm a bit of a fanatic when it comes to this game, and its simplicity. Okay, so every time I've played this, or every time I've suggested this to play with people, right? Okay, first off, it's got Marvel behind it, right? As soon as you
Yep.
say Marvel, you have players.
Yep.
Like people will at least hear you out.
Yeah.
I've had people roll this up at work that don't even aren't even interested in, never played a tabletop in their life,
Hmm.
and just like, oh hey, that looks cool. What's that you're reading on your desk? It's got the colors. It's got the heroes up there. It's got Hulk smashing through a wall like Kool-Aid Man.
Oh yeah,
Like what more do you want?
Wolverine
Uh,
and Spider-Man. Like,
yeah, like so I got started with this. I remember I was like, again, it was what is it, like a little bit before the pandemic, and I was just browsing online. I forget
so
like
wait, this
how I
game is what got you into art. How long ago was this?
this was like roughly like 7 years ago. Yeah,
So you,
I had
okay.
played.
Wow.
So no, but here's the thing. This is the first game I ran. See,
Oh,
I had played. So I had played like Pathfinder and
gotcha.
3.5, right? That's and dealing with the Munchkins
Yep.
and the people going, all right, that's plus 31 to my spell save. And I'm like, all right, bro. Uh, so yeah, I was like kind of thinking, I think it was either sometime after Spoonie's vid that I because he did a video about like superhero RPGs, I think.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, well, let me look into this. Check this out a little bit. And so I looked online and I found the PDF for it. And I literally just started rolling up characters. And I was like, oh man, this is cool. This guy can shoot lightning out of his butt. This is great. And I just started rolling up guys, right? And I was like, okay, this is cool. And like just reading through of my own, like I didn't have a group. I didn't have like a plan really.
Yep.
I it
You're
was
just
just it was
alone in your bedroom making characters with the Marvel game. Yep.
literally,
This sounds
literally.
so similar to me in middle school with Heroes Unlimited. I'm just saying.
So yeah, except I'm a grown ass man doing it.
I I
And
get it. I'm grown now and I do
I still exactly.
it.
But no, so yeah, I'm rolling up characters and I'm just like, huh, well, shoot, I guess I need people to play this with. Let's see who I can find. And so I go out and I try to look for people to play with. I end up joining a Pathfinder game, right?
Hmm?
And I meet some cool people there, some great people. It's a little home game,
Yeah.
and one of my friends, Rod, one of the best guys. He's just a cool dude in general. Um, he was like, oh, you were into Marvel, like the RPG, and I was like, well, yeah, I'm just kind of trying to find. And he's like a veteran gamer, right? Like he
Yeah.
played
He's like, I
he
played
played
this in the
White Box.
90s.
Yeah, no, like he's like, oh, I played this when I was stationed in whatever, and
Yeah.
like,
That's a
you know what I'm
common
saying?
phrase.
So he was like super interested in playing this, and so he was like, yeah, I'll play her, and he's like, I have some people that that I can invite, and you can invite whoever, and I was like, yeah, we can host it at my place. It's all good. So yeah, I start running, and I've already ordered some of the books at this point, Juice. Like
Yep. Yep.
I'm like, all right, well, that's not bad. $20 on eBay, all right. And so,
I did that with
and
Pathfinder, by the way, like a year before 5e
yeah,
came out. I bought hundreds of dollars of Pathfinder because I was like, ooh, I kind of like this. And yeah, hundreds,
gosh.
not just like a couple books. I bought like every book I could find in a very short amount of time. And then played like three
Mm,
sessions of Pathfinder or DM'd like three sessions and then switched to 5e and was like, screw Pathfinder.
no,
The first
no,
version.
I have so many not fifth edition, but 3.5 and like Pathfinder books that like I'm still
Yeah.
trying to get rid of them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't.
Ultimate Campaign was a good book. They have like Paizo does a good job with their books, I feel.
Yeah, Ultimate Campaign and like the what was the one that like because Ultimate Campaign, that's for like domain management, right? Yeah, that's the
So
one.
Ultimate Campaign, you could do like arm like control like an army. It gave you a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
background information about your characters, like who their parents are and things like that. How your characters know each other in the group. So I
Hmm.
remember taking a lot of things from that book and just applying it to all campaigns, whether it was Pathfinder or not. I was like, I like this, and so I started using that for other things. And in fact, there's a lot of Paizo books. The Game Mastery Guide for Pathfinder
Yeah,
1,
I got
I
that.
printed. I went and had copies made of the sheets and made a binder, like my adventure creation binder, and a lot of that was in there. Just
Yeah,
so many good
this is
things.
this is good. There's good advice in there.
Heck yeah.
And also Golarion is like really just such a cool setting.
I
Like
agree.
it's like
Yeah,
I just
I
wish
like
it
it.
wasn't attached to such a. Well, I mean, I guess they have the Savage Worlds Pathfinder now, so if you wanted to play, you really could still do it. But is it? I think
You
I've
haven't heard my Savage Worlds take, have you?
no, 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 yeah, I think I heard a piece of it.
All right. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that a little later. That's
But yeah,
another game
so
that I invested a bunch of money in too. Um, and yeah, I'll never DM it. I've played it a bunch with a bunch of different DMs or GMs at conventions with my friend who's a huge Savage Worlds fan. But
yeah.
yeah, we'll get into that a little later.
So anyway, so with this Marvel superheroes, right? So I got the game together. Rod and a few of his friends came by and we played, and it was a first campaign I ran was like a Days of Future Past campaign
Okay.
because that's one of my favorite like Marvel settings.
Yep.
And I think part of this is just nostalgia, right? Because I grew up
Sure.
watching the '97, X-Men.
The 92
You know what I'm
X-Men?
saying? Or the
Yep.
'92 X-Men.
Now you get to watch the
Um,
97 X-Men.
See now, no, but
That show is so damn good. I'm gonna binge it
yeah.
tomorrow. I've already watched it, like as the episodes came out, but I want to watch it in totality, and I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
just watch it start to finish. I think tomorrow with my sick kid.
See, I'm wondering whether or not I should go back and watch the OG because I know it's supposed to be like
It
a
holds up, man.
continuation,
It's so
and,
good.
and and I was just like, maybe I should because oh man, but
You should.
but no, one of part of it is a big part of it is like nostalgia because I
Yeah.
remember we had on VHS, right? We had the one episode. I don't know if you remember this, but the episode where they get kidnapped by Master Mold, like the big Sentinel who craps
Is
all the
that in
little ones.
Yeah, is it the season 1 where it's like some of them are locked up where Morph died?
No, no, no,
Is
no. It's like I think it's
Or
season
was it the
two.
later?
No, 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 no. I think it's season two though. I
Was it
think
season
it's
2?
I think I don't I'm not sure,
Who did he
but it was
capture?
he had oh what was the Canadian? He had a bunch of like jobbers in there. He had like
Yes, I love the wrestling
uh
terminology. Um,
I remember he was fighting. He got captured Storm, and like Peter
okay,
Gyrick was there,
okay,
talking crap as usual. And this was the one where Cable showed up because he showed up
okay.
like to help them out and help break them out. And it was like they basically like broke
It's like
open
a
a dam or
factory where they're
something.
making all the Sentinels.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
but they
remember
had like
bits and pieces. I just don't remember. I don't remember Cable coming back, but I know So I've
yeah.
watched the first season or whatever so many times. Like when Netflix came out, I got all the discs for the original X-Men to watch when they send you the disc and then send you the next, and I had to wait for the other two discs, and because I had sent the first two back. Yeah, like, but I've watched that so many times. Then when Disney Plus came out, I was like, we're rewatching all the X-Men, and I did it again. And so I've seen it tons of times, love it. It's my favorite cartoon ever.
It's great because and this is one thing that the Fox movies like piss me off about. Like, because
Yeah.
even growing up, even seeing them as a kid, I was like, why are they always doing like Cyclops so dirty? Like, he's so cool in the show. Like, like
See,
and
I'll be
then
honest, he's too much of a Boy Scout for me.
yeah, but like I'm saying like the way he uses his powers in the show
Yes.
is like,
It's toned
like where
down.
he's like oh, I'm going to use my powers to vault up, or I'm going to do like the
Yeah.
or I'm going to like cushion somebody's fall. Like he barely does that in the movies,
Yeah.
and uh, and that's one thing I like about the RPG is because like they cover stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So because you have these things called power stunts,
Hmm.
so like if you have a character, like let's just say again Cyclops, all right, and let's say he's like, all right, well, let's say Cyclops' player, he's like, hey, dude, I want to do like flying with my power. And the
Okay.
DM's like, well, you're Cyclops, you can't fly. And then the player goes, well, wait, how about
I do the Quake 2
well,
jump and blast the
yeah,
ground to yeah.
I do a rocket jump
Yup.
and yeah, I shoot myself up. And then it's like, okay, you got to spend karma to try it, but you can try it.
Yep.
Like as long as it makes sense within the realm. And also, if you can point to an issue where the character does something like that with their power, so it's like, oh, yeah, they use their fire to fly. It's like, well, sure.
The God Evelyn.
So-
I love it.
exactly.
And that
And
uses D6s, correct?
no, dude, this uses D100, and
D100.
you have to reference a table for just about everything you use.
Mm.
And because it's school TSR, right? This is like 84,
Yep.
right? Or I think this one specifically came out in like 90, 92,
Oh, okay.
90, 91. This specific, because this is like the revised basic set, right?
Gotcha.
And you know how TSR, they did the whole, well, we're gonna have a basic game, and then we're gonna have an advanced game for you nerds out there.
Right. Those of you who really want to
And
get into the numbers.
for the people who are running long-term campaigns, and they're like, all right, but I need that crunchiness,
You're right.
I need
I need more
crunch.
options.
I need, yeah. Oh man, what? Just three powers? No,
Yeah.
but because this one doesn't even really talk about like progression all that
Hmm.
much. Um, but no, like rolling up a character, it's so fun. You just roll a D100, right? And then there's like four main origins, right? So you got aliens, which is just like, like Thor, Silver Surfer, anybody who's from outer space or whatever, another dimension. You have altered humans, that's your Spider-Mans, your Captain Americas, your Bucky's, your
Yep.
Wolverines. Um, Actually, no, Wolverine's more, he's kind of a little bit of both, but whatever.
Yep.
You got robots, that's robots. I'm not going to explain robots.
Yep.
And then you got mutants, and it's the mutants, and like you pick your origin and then you roll your stats and the whole phase rip thing. So you have these six stats. So you got fighting, agility, strength, reason, intuition, and psyche, and that
Okay.
basically determines what you're going to be rolling on for certain stuff. So whereas to D&D, you'd have like oh, what's your, like if you wanted to resist a spell, it'd be like save versus spell, right? But in
Right.
this, it'd be like, all right, roll your psyche and then reference the chart. And
Mm.
so it's really really simple. So like let's say I have a remarkable psyche, right? So and the DM's like, okay, well roll to resist this. So I'd roll a D100 and I would check the remarkable chart, right? And let's say I get a 40. All right, so that means I got a green. Okay, I passed. All right, unless the DM says you're going to need a yellow, in which case it's a different threshold. So,
Okay.
uh, mhm. Or red, which is essentially a crit in this game.
Oh.
And you have certain things that will boost up, like can boost that up. So let's say I was trying to block the spell, right?
Hmm.
And this guy, my character, whoever I'm playing as, let's call him I don't know, what's a cool superhero name?
Captain
Uh,
Underpants.
Captain
Next.
Underpants. Let's say Captain. Actually, I think
That's
Captain
a
Underpants
comic book
has.
character.
Well, no, I think he has like pretty good mental. No, he doesn't, because the whole point is he's brainwashed into being
He's like a
whatever.
principal that then's like hypnotized, right?
So he has terrible psyche, at least for the stats of this game. So, but let's say in this situation he has remarkable. Okay,
Okay.
so if he has like, let's say he has a talent, right, or a certain skill, like it's like, all right, maybe I have um hypnotism. So he knows how hypnotism works. So now he'll get like a shift bonus. So instead of rolling
Mm.
on 30, he'll roll on the next highest one, which would be incredible. And he'll have
Gotcha.
an easier chance. Or if he wanted to spend karma, which is this game's kind of meta currency, you could spend it
To
to
boost.
increase your rolls. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also doubles as XP, but
Hmm.
it mostly gets spent. It's supposed to get spent.
Gotcha.
And yeah, there's a bunch of powers in here. Like all of the ones that you think they'd have, growth, shrinking,
Sure.
protected senses, wall crawling, lightning speed, yada yada, all that stuff.
Right.
And yeah, it's super easy to roll up a character. And if you don't want to roll up a character, Juice, all you got to do, man, is just be like, "Hey, GM, can I play Captain America?" And it's like, "Fuck yeah, you can, dude.
Here's this block. There you go.
Here's this stat block, bro.
Yep.
Have a ball."
Yep.
You know,
That's
so they
awesome.
have all of the major heroes and villains statted out, and also this game's still supported, which is it's crazy, man.
Yeah,
There's
there's a
still
pretty
a
big
dedicated,
community online, I think, that still does
yeah,
stuff for it. Makes new characters and things like that.
yeah. The Marvel file, they come out with that like every month or so, I do believe,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, they're basically like single-handedly keeping
Yeah.
keeping this stuff alive in a lot of ways. Like they have crazy rules on there. Like there's like, oh, you want to
Yep.
use this to play a Dragon Ball Z game? Oh, here's the rules for it. Oh,
Nice.
here's Captain America during the war, you know, and all of the villains he fought against. Here's their stats and yada yada.
Hmm.
And like little mini adventures they'll put out. So as a superhero game, like um, to get newbies into TTRPGs in general, I think this is a great start for like people who are just new to tabletop game. I think even better. I know everyone likes to talk and say 5e is so easy to get into. That here's a hot take. It's not. Okay? It's just we have a glut of of 5e content so you can immerse yourself in it easier. Therefore, it
Yes.
seems like it's easier to learn. But I mean, if we're talking objectively speaking, you need to learn more things in order to be good or proficient at 5e than you do in this game.
It's
In this
definitely
game,
daunting on new
it's
people. Like I've seen people who have never played sit down and be like, "Well, what does this mean? I don't even know what this is." Like it's a whole new language for them. And honestly, like then, oh yeah, go pick some spells. Have fun. Like, that's
oh
too much for a new person usually. They don't get it. So, yeah. It can be pretty daunting.
yeah, man. But you don't have all that in this. It's just, hey, you know, you're it's very simple. Like your power, what does it do? Like, oh, I can read minds. At what rank? Oh, you can read minds at incredible. Okay, that means you're and also because everyone's statted out, you can kind of compare yourself to existing heroes. So
Right.
if you have a fighting of let's say incredible, right? That's 40. If you have a fighting of incredible, that means you can fight as well as Captain America,
Right.
like or as well as Taskmaster. You know,
Okay.
like,
Okay.
and it's just like you could sit, or it's like, oh, I have a psyche of monsters. That means my mind is almost as much of an intellect fortress as Professor X. You know, like,
See, that
you
should
know,
some stuff shouldn't be possible. I'm just saying. There should be limits, I think.
and that is another big problem about this game, or one of the only problems I have with it
Yeah.
is that limiting you really gotta like work with your GM like as a
Yeah.
player and you really gotta like sit there and be like, hey bro, like what's gonna be what first off, what type of campaign are we
Yeah,
playing?
like is it
Right?
street level? Is
Uh
it world
yeah,
saving? Is it galaxy saving? Like how big are we going here?
it's, yeah, how big are we going? How small are we going? Whatever. And
Yep.
also the relative like where's the because you know, what are going to be your weaknesses? What are going to be your obligations?
Hmm.
Like, what are we going to have to tie you down and make it so that we can have a kind of compelling story? Because heroes need flaws.
Yep.
Everyone, even the greatest hero, if they don't have flaws, then you're missing a key part of what makes a hero. You
Right.
know, even Superman. That's why
Oh gosh,
that's why
don't
they
get me
had
going
to.
on Superman. So here's my hot take for you guys. I don't care what you guys think about this. Superman is a pussy. That's it. I'm just gonna say it.
Oh, so you think he doesn't go far enough?
I
You
hate
think he?
Superman. I think so. Superman is vanilla ice cream. Okay, he's the goody goody
Wow.
boy scout. Like I just can't. I like Batman. Batman has a little more nuance to him. Batman can whoop Superman's ass because he's smart enough to bring some little bit of kryptonite. A little. little tiny ring with a little kryptonite on it, and like, oh, you don't like that, Superman? And then Superman drops to his knees. It's like, I'm sorry, Batman. Please don't hurt me. Like,
This is a crazy take.
I used to have a friend that I used to work with, and we used to talk smack. Batman, Superman. We'd post memes that called the other one out constantly on Facebook back in the day.
Well, I will have to say this about Batman. I really do wish they would have. I, I would say would have killed them all, because like he had one of the best. What was it? It was at the end of how was
Killing
it?
Joke
Not
or whatever.
no, not Killing Joke. Where they were battling Darkseid. I know that
Okay.
happens a lot, but like the one where it was the one. I think
Was it
it wasn't
Justice
Final.
League or was it Batman?
No, it wasn't Batman. It was like one of the big, like,
The
I think it was
Justice
Final
League things or
Crisis,
something.
one of the
Okay.
Final Crisis. And yeah, so basically he gets, spoiler alert for you guys. He gets a gun that has like unobtainium in it, right?
Yeah.
And he shoots Darkseid in the head, dispersing his physical form and saving the universe as we know it.
Of
And of
course.
course, he gets hit with the Omega beams, like in the
Mm.
same, in the same attack. And it's just like, but it didn't kill him. It just sent him back in time. I was like,
See,
what?
that would have been the best because if you go out saving the universe, it's cool. Just look at
Well,
the
yeah, not
Avengers when
only
Tony
that,
Stark died. Sorry,
but he,
spoilers.
but no, but he also broke his creed
To
and
never kill
acknowledged like,
somebody.
hey, yeah,
Hmm.
to never kill somebody, but it's in the most like way where you can be like, all right, man, like
Yeah.
I guess we can excuse it this time because it's like the ultimate evil. Like, what do you want? Like,
See, I don't like. So there's things I don't like about Batman, but I grew up on Batman. Like Michael Keaton was my Batman as a kid. The first one. I had like all the toys and from the original Batman movie, including his little plane and junk with the little scissors
oh
on the
yeah,
front. I had all that. Got it all for Christmas one year. It was
nice.
great. And then I used to watch the old Adam West Batman show as well when I was little because that was on TV when I was a kid. So I'd watch
Yeah.
that. Loved it. Um, and then the movies got just bad. I still watched them, still enjoyed them. In fact, I enjoy almost all the Batman movies. I can't think of one I absolutely hate, but Christian Bale for me was the best Batman. I don't mind the Twilight dude. What's his name? Edward Pattinson or
Uh,
whatever.
Robert Pattinson,
Yeah,
right?
that's what it is. Sorry, I was
Mhm.
getting his character
Uh,
Edward Cullen and Pat. Yeah,
yeah,
him.
same thing.
But I actually liked that Batman movie too. That I thought was a really good movie. Um,
Juice. The thing about that one though was like, no, I love that movie actually,
mhm,
but that had me like I was watching the whole time, like
yeah.
because some other, sometimes you put on a movie and you're just kind of watch. No, man, I
Oh, I get
late
you.
night, I was into it,
Yeah,
but when you really think about
but
what
DC does
like,
not know how to make movies.
uh,
Can we agree? Like most of their movies, I don't get excited to go see. None
no,
of them.
most of no,
I know
no,
they're gonna
man,
suck most of the time.
very. No, because I didn't watch the Batman because of the hype. I just watched it
Yeah,
because like I was just home one day, just like
I got the
sleep
Blu-ray
with
for
this.
$2 out of a bargain bin, and then I
That's
didn't even
crazy.
watch it on the Blu-ray. I eventually watched it on the streaming service like a year later.
It's crazy.
I had
Yeah, like
COVID. I had COVID. I was stuck in this room by myself. And I'm like, I'm just going to watch this because I got nothing going on. And then I loved it. And I'm like, I should have watched this way sooner. I might still have the Blu ray unwrapped. It might still be in the wrapper in my house.
that's only worth $2. That's crazy. Uh,
Right? I know.
but no, the ending with him facing down the Riddler and realizing
Yeah.
that the Riddler is actually like his radicalization is actually a part of his own, like it's not just like, oh, Gotham's a bad place. I'm encouraging this because I'm going around doing vigilante shit and I'm showing them that they can do that, but they're going
Yeah.
to take it further than I'm willing to.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, if he's realized this lesson, right, that what he's doing can have like negative consequences. It's like, oh, it's going to make the criminals fear, but it's also going to embolden this other radical side of society or these other people who are
Yep.
like him. it's like, where do we go from there?
Yep.
Because at that point, if I was in his shoes, I would be like, damn, maybe I should stop doing it. Like, I'm
But
just
the
saying,
cat's out
like,
the bag already. You can't now. Because like now, like say
yeah,
you do step back and retire, like they're still gonna keep doing it because you've already shown them.
yeah,
So it doesn't help if he
it,
quits now. He has to like
it's
one up him.
it's well, that's what I'm saying. It gives you that dilemma, and it's like, damn, like, are we just gonna like, I don't know. I didn't
Keep
expect them to go that
escalating.
route with it. Yeah,
I
I didn't
yeah
expect them to go that route. That's my
yeah
whole thing.
yeah no it yeah it was so good. So obviously you started DMing with this super RPG, the Marvel one. Have you played
Definitely.
other superhero RPGs?
This bad boy right here, Mass.
Man, I haven't played that one yet either.
Oh, well, one of these days, man, you and me. No,
Now that's like low level superheroes, right? Masks.
no. So Mass is actually, real talk. It's more inspired by Teen Titans than anything.
Yeah.
Like, so you're playing as these teenagers, right? Because
Hmm.
that's really what it's about. It's like you're playing as teenagers, finding yourself,
Okay.
kind of, and it's just like you have these certain archetypes that you can play as. So you have the outsider, right?
Hmm.
Which is like, oh, that's the person who's what you call it, who is in um what is it? Who's like from another world, right?
Oh, okay.
From another place. And this, or like you'll have like the what's it called again? The Like a person who's like related to the old hero, like the protege. Oh, that's
Oh,
what's
like a
called, the
legacy.
protege.
Like a legacy.
Yeah,
Oh, protege. Okay.
the protege. So it's like, oh, I'm like Rob, like if you want to play your Robins,
Yep.
Um, and I kind of like this game because, well, if you're playing with a group that's like not big on like character death, um,
Why
it's a
would people
bit
not want character death? I'm gonna be on my
because
soapbox. Guys, character death is awesome. It really is. It changes the story. It's fun. I'm just saying it.
man.
You don't like
Um,
character death?
no. I'm fine with it, but
But you don't
but I'm
like it.
saying if I think if depending
Mr.
on the
Batman
genre,
should have died
right?
in the end of that doesn't necessarily like character death.
No. Hear me out. Hear me out. So I think if you're trying to tell, because this is trying to emulate a TV show, right?
Yeah, a certain story. Yep.
A lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games are trying to. It's meant to be like, oh, this is an
Narrative.
arc. You're supposed
Hmm.
to do it in like seasons and stuff like that.
Yep.
Even the way it's structured, yeah. So so yeah, it wouldn't make sense if you're playing a game of like, oh, there's this team of teen heroes, and like it wouldn't make sense if Robin died halfway through Teen Titans.
Right.
It would be they couldn't do it.
But it'd
Like you
be
can't.
such a better story
Oh,
because now the other
that's
characters are going to be sad and now they go to their emo phase. And the
yeah.
Black Parade is their theme song as they enter all sorts of different rooms. It works.
Join the Black Parade. No,
See?
but no, man. Because here's the thing: like that would work if you have one writer, and when you have what essentially is like 4 to 5 writers, the players, right?
Yep.
Then you have to get everybody on board with it, right?
Yeah.
Because like not everybody wants to. Some people are like, all right, I just want to be a cool Teen Titans guy and do Teen Titans stuff,
Yeah.
or like I just want to explore some aspects of my character, but like, yeah. So I think it's for different groups, right? But
Oh,
like
for sure.
generally speaking, when a group that I play with, they don't like old school, because I run a lot of old school D&D, right? They don't like the character death from that. I'm like, let's try something a little different.
Right. Yep.
And then I'll run like some Power by the Apocalypse or something like this, and they're like, "Oh, well, this is great. I really got to explore my character, and I didn't feel like I was gonna die every 10 seconds." I was like,
Right.
"That." And also, you can still have things happen to their character, and
Sure.
this one is all about your character. Like your characters are going to change their stats,
Hmm.
like because you're playing teenage characters, right? You
Sure.
have you're more like malleable to like other outside influences, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, like I'm trying to fit in, or oh, this guy, my mentor wants me to be a certain way, but I'm fighting with how I want to do.
Yep.
And so yeah, the game has like elements of that where people can basically try to influence you to like or invoke certain relationships where it's like, oh, I'm your mentor. You need to act more like a paragon
Hmm.
and shift your stats towards that, right?
Okay.
Depending on oh, or depending on what you don't roll, or if you want to, you could just want to go along with it, right? Depending on
Right.
how the story's going, right? You're just like, damn, yeah, I really do need to step up and be the hero of Jump City or whatever it's called.
Right.
And yeah, and you can have that stuff, and there also is progression as well. So you get
Hmm.
more moves as you go on. Or let's say
Based on your
also,
playbook or whatever they're called.
yeah, based on your playbook, we got the transformed.
Yep.
Um, so that's like if you want to play like your Beast Boy type
Is that like
archetype.
an experimental kind of guy? Would be the transformed, or
it
is
could
that like a lycanthropy or something?
it could be both of those.
Oh, okay.
It could be either or,
Some
man. It could
external
be like
force
a
changed you or changes you. Gotcha.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, like so it could be you could do it like a Hulk, you could do it like a
Yeah.
Beast Boy, you could do it like a uh what's uh what's the Wolfman? You could do like Wolfman. I don't know.
All right.
And yeah, this it's got a lot of good stuff for it.
Hmm.
Although I will say part of the issue I have with, and this isn't really an issue with Mass itself. This
Hmm.
is more of an issue that I find, and this is me personally, bro. Me personally. That so I find that it's very exhausting to run Powered by the Apocalypse stuff
Okay.
because unlike D&D or Marvel or MSH where you can just make a scenario and just be like, okay, boom, everyone's statted. This is what's that. With this, you have to think of the narrative, like more narrative repercussions, right? Because that's what the
Right.
game is all about.
It's more
And
intense, like takes a lot of focus to kind of,
yeah, more
yeah,
improvisation,
mental
really.
energy. Yep.
More improvisation because certain characters have moves that can change narrative aspects
Hmm.
it's like, oh, I have a move that can introduce a new ally, so
Hmm.
now it's like, okay, crap, uh and so
Another
now it's like
superhero just
now
joins the fray.
yeah, another superhero just joins the fray, and now we have to figure out who's the superhero, what's he doing here,
Yeah.
how's he related, all of that stuff, and that's a whole nother scene or several other scenes,
Yeah.
and it's for everybody.
Hmm.
It's definitely some people they just want to come and play and like I just want to beat up some bad guys and like
Yeah.
not think too
That's
hard
not the right
about it.
game for that.
It's not the right game for that. Yes,
Yeah. I
exactly.
hear you. I see, and I'm like that. I just want to go beat up some baddies, you know?
Exactly. This is
Yep.
more for
Yeah,
you can
for
just
sure.
play a dude and just ow, and then get some karma, and then you go home. And this is even meant to be played in shorter sessions.
Yeah.
MSH. These are supposed to be like maybe 2 to 3 hours, and less of like the
See,
traditional.
two to
Yeah,
3 hours is my ideal online session. I do not want to go over 3 hours if I'm playing an online game. It's so
exactly.
online games I've noticed because you have to focus more. There's not like just hanging out with your friends and side talk and things like that. So I find that after about 2 hours, depending on what's happening in a game, I start to like tune things out. One, I already have a bad memory, so I don't remember things from session to session. But no, just in general, I just have a poor memory. Like I forget people's names. When it comes to RPGs, like I will forget what happened last session until people explain what happened in that session for about 20 minutes, and then one thing will jog my memory, and then from that I then build the blocks and then remember things. So it's
You have the
really tough.
scaffolding right there, and you're just like, all
Yeah.
right,
So when I DM games, especially since I stream them now, I record obviously. I rewatch those sessions the day I'm going to run a game. So, like, if I had a game tonight, I would have rewatched the last session earlier today, just so it's fresh in my head. Because otherwise, I won't remember anything. And then I start the session always asking for the players to give me a recap in case there's something I missed from watching it that day, and so I'm, on the same wavelength. Because otherwise, I don't remember. And I'm not good at taking notes either. That's the other thing. I suck at taking notes, especially if I'm running the game. I can't do that. I just don't. So,
Do it because like okay, really the main thing I take note on is like treasures and NPC names
yeah.
because again like everything like scenarios I'm fine with that like general goals and what the party is trying to accomplish. I can remember most of that. But when it comes to
Hmm.
specific, like, oh, what was the shopkeeper's name? Yeah, I'm terrible with that crap. Or,
Yep.
oh, how much GP did you guys find? Let me see, because I don't remember. So, yeah,
Yep.
man,
So
definitely.
are those the only two games you've run for people then that are superheroes?
Ooh. Yeah, that I can think of, really.
Okay.
Unless No, really, that's about it, man. Those are my two. These have been my two go-tos. I mean, I've run Marvel way more than I've run Mass. Absolutely. Um, yeah. Oh, yes.
Have you played this one? I've never played
No.
it. I've never played it. I
Never played.
have Green Ronin sent me the books. I've wanted to play this for years. Well, they sent me the Game Master Guide. I bought the others. I have the basic Heroes Handbook. I have the deluxe Heroes Handbook. I have the DM screen. Like, obviously, Mutants and Masterminds is probably the most successful superhero RPG in the last 20 years, right? There's probably some IPs that have done well just because it's Marvel or just because it's whatever, but I have a
Yeah,
feeling
but like
Mutants and
commercially,
Masterminds. Yeah.
I would say Mutants and Mastermind. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's one I want to play. I know it's based on 3.5, which scares the shit out of me because
Yeah.
obviously 3.5 can be like it's a crunchy system. I didn't so I've played original Pathfinder quite a bit. I used to do Pathfinder Society as a player. I ran a couple scenarios for small groups, but I've never fully went in on any 3.5 game and run a bunch or played a bunch. Um
Mm.
so it's like, again, I don't like crunchy systems. Like, that is a problem for me. I like simple systems. And if it's not a simple system, if I can't quickly house rule it to be a simple system, I usually don't have a lot of interest in the game. Um, just because, again, my wife is starting to tell me she thinks I have ADHD. Random people have started to tell me they think I have ADHD. I've never been diagnosed. I've taken online courses to see if I might have it, and they all say I don't. But I have a terrible memory. I get distracted easy. Um, so it's possible.
You know?
So yeah. So, anyways, one day I'm gonna play Mutants and Masterminds. I just want to play it. I don't think I ever want to DM it. But
So
I'm uh this one, the
uh,
Marvel
that that's
Multiverse.
been on my radar, man. Tell me about that. What do
Haven't
you think?
played it. Haven't played it or run it.
What?
It's 3D. So here's the thing. It's 3D6, and one of them
36.
is a different color die six. Okay, and it means different things. I haven't played it. I haven't made a character. I haven't done anything for this system, but I've got the core rulebook. I've got the adventure module, which I would never run another printed module again, but for any system. But it's cool to have it and read it, and it's got other characters and stuff. So I would love to play this as well. Matt Forbeck, I've met him multiple times. He's the writer. I've had him on my channel before. Um, I've went to his panel discussions at conventions before. Love the guy. Uh, and I guarantee. So I know the rules from what I've heard from some people are not the best. They made changes from the time it was the playtest to the core books, and I guess it still has some things that people don't like. I don't
Really?
know. I haven't heard anything that would turn me off, and I don't remember what they are now, so I can't really say. But if you watch reviews like I have of them, you'll hear some of the complaints that people have. But I still want to play it. I would love to play it,
Absolutely.
and I think that would be badass, personally.
Yeah,
Now, the
man.
one I have run plenty, and I have
Come
played
on.
plenty of
Come
times.
on. Drum roll.
is this one, which you can't see real well, but this is the original book I had for it, which actually I like the way they did that. But then they have this one, which is the revised version.
See, that's the one. That's the one I know. That's the one I've
Yep.
seen. And
So
yep.
if you know me, I do believe the Palladium book system, and I know a lot of people watch my channel have seen me talk about it before, and some people are Palladium books purists. I am not that person. I am not somebody who says that the system is great or anything like that. However, there's a lot of things I do like about the system. I like the active defense system. Like, I like that if it's not your turn, you can still do stuff, right? Like, I can parry or dodge an attack or roll with the punch or grapple them and entangle them. Like, you have things you can spend one of your actions to do. With that said, the action economy kind of sucks in Palladium books. How you use your actions, again, kind of sucks. When you have a speedster in the group, it can be kind of cool, but because of how the rules are written with the attacks per melee, a faster character doesn't necessarily get to move before some. Like, there's some things that are just wonky. So it's funny because the house rule that almost everyone uses for like how you go through your 15-second melees made it into the Megaversal Ambassador program for how they tell their DMs to run it at conventions. And so there's house rules
Nice.
built into outside of how the system is supposed to be run at conventions to teach the system, which is kind of funny. Um, I ignore most of the rules when I run it. And I usually use like I have a document I made. I call it Riffs Light or Palladium Light. Now you call it Riffs Light because
Mhm.
I have some of the Riffs rules in there too. But you
Yeah.
know, like all the different attacks that are in this game or the different hand-to-hand styles, they give you
Wait,
like
Juice, but hold on.
arbitrary. Sorry, go ahead.
You, so I need to know from the beginning. I want to know
Yeah,
how you fell in love with this game, man. Because you're jumping into the flaws. I need you to do. There we go. TMNT. All
this
right.
this is the
Give me
first
the.
RPG book I ever owned. This was
That's
given to
crazy.
me by a so I okay. Back in the 90s, when I was in middle school, I lived in an apartment complex, and my mom was one of the pool attendees. So, what that meant is that there was like an adult that was always there to kind of watch over and make sure things were going well, like unlocking it and locking it at the end of the night, making sure kids aren't there without parents, stuff like that. So, my mom was one of those people, and we lived right across the street from it. So
Okay.
she would be there, and then there was another person who signed up to be it because they had two small daughters and they like to go swimming all the time, so they would come there. Their husband was friends with my uncle, so he was like a 26-year-old man. I'm like 12, and he loved Spawn. He loved Palladium books, especially
Awesome.
riffs. And so we would talk, and I loved superheroes at the time. In middle school, superheroes were my shit. Like, heck, most of the
Doesn't
90s,
love
they were my shit.
superheroes when they're a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like he was like, "Well, do you know what Spawn is?" And I was like, "No." And then I was like, "Oh yeah, that's that cartoon that's on HBO at midnight. I know what you're talking about." And he's like, "It's a comic book." And then the movie came out like a year later, right? And so anyway, so we would talk about Spawn and I would talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cuz I loved them when I was younger and all this stuff. So around 96 or 97, he gave me this specific book. This was his which you can play as the Ninja Turtles. The system for creating animal creatures in this is fantastic. The way they use BioE points, it's still, in my opinion, one of the best ways to make like cross-breeded like animal humanoid creatures. Right?
Later, didn't they come out with a after the bomb? Was that
Yep.
after TMNT after they lost
Yeah,
the license?
because they didn't renew the license because it started getting too
Yeah.
expensive because of the cartoons, and it wasn't selling as well. And I actually had Kevin and Sean on not long ago. They Kevin believes it's because the cartoons were too like PG, and so he thinks that they were kidified, and that ruined sales of it. And I don't know. I don't think so because you could play the RPG in a kidified way. But anyways, yes, after the bomb came out, I have one or two of those books. I don't have all of them. Um, But anyway, so the guy gave me that book, and then
Mhm.
we were gonna play Heroes. And he then I went and bought this. I had enough money to buy this at a writer's hobby shop. And then I bought a bunch of random dice, like I didn't know how many I needed. I didn't know exactly what shape. So I just bought a bunch that I thought looked cool of the variety, right? Handpicked each one instead of buying a full set because I didn't know you could do that. So, 12-year-old me comes home with a green bag full of different dice. I liked the blood splattery looking ones. Those were my favorite. I
It's
lost
always
all those
cool.
dice. I don't know where they're at. But anyway, so I did that. And then so I got one of my neighborhood friends who wanted to play too because he was like, "Oh, superheroes, cool." So we went to this guy's house. We made our characters. So as a big pro wrestling fan, which this guy also was, I made a glass alien who had a disguise kit, like he could put his face in it and do stuff. And as my spaceship was coming to Earth, I picked up satellite signals of television. And so my character was watching wrestling because that, like, as they're coming to Earth, because they're crashing too. That's the other thing. Before they even got to Earth, they lost the function of their controls and can't control the ship. They just crash course, but they can pick up satellite. Sting, the Crow Sting, from WCW, was the
Mhm.
inspiration. So I had a baton that I used instead of a bat. I had a black trench coat I made because I had sewing as a skill. Skill system sucks in Palladium, by the way. It takes forever, and most of the skills are kind of stupid how they're laid out. That's my opinion. I know Palladium fans are going to crucify me for that. I just think the way skills are done is way too cumbersome and not well
And the
explained.
progression is like lopsided with certain skills too.
Yeah,
Like,
it's arbitrary.
like yeah,
One skill
it's
you might
very,
get
very
6%
fair.
better, and the other one it's 4%. But why? It
Yeah.
and then you get like an IQ bonus. That's the other thing. Right off the bat, attributes, if they're not exceptional, are pointless. Like if your strength isn't
Uh,
16 at least, then there's no point in even ever looking at it.
there's no difference between a 9 strength and a 15 strength, really. Like,
Yeah,
like it's
pretty
just
much.
'cause you're not getting the bonus either way.
Right. So like in the past when I used to DM, I'd say like around 2006-ish, because I used to run some online games and chat rooms in the Palladium Books chat room on their website. I don't even know if that's still there, but I used to run some games there. And the only time that a stat like that would matter is if two guys are wrestling or they want to like entangle. I would actually say, "What's your strength? What's their strength? Okay, based on what you're trying to do, that person just overpowers you." I wouldn't even do a roll. Or if
Makes
somebody
sense.
was like, "Well, I want to try and like do a maneuver because I'm trained in fighting to like get out of a hold or whatever." I don't even know what the actual rules are for doing that, but I would then say, "All right, what's your physical prowess compared to the other person who's trying to hold you? What's their strength?" And if your prowess was better, here's the other thing: if you want to make max, like min maxy, powerful characters in Palladium, just make sure your physical prowess is as high as possible, so you get dodge, parry
Pro tip.
bonuses, like all those things are better, and that is the most powerful attribute in the whole game. So physical prowess. That's why in Rifts I like juicers so much.
So, but what would you say is your favorite class or archetype in Unlimited?
Okay, so I don't. When I first got the game, because of my love for Batman, I
Mhm.
thought the best way to do that was with a hardware unlimited character. So those are characters, depending on which specialty you take in it, it could be like making vehicles or making weapons or electronics, like different things. Or you can have like, I think there's one that's like the jack of all trades. So it's like a little bit of everything. I used to think that was my favorite, which actually Batman would be a special training operative, I think, if I had to redo it. Um,
Uh,
I personally don't have a favorite when it really comes down to it now, because I don't get to play it. I have not played Palladium Books as a player in like 20 years. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, no, that's not true. Actually, that is not true. We used to do a bunch of one shots back in 2015, and I played a
Let me get
character.
back up.
Yeah, we used to do a bunch of one shot, like with AJ Pickett, guy named SR2 Joker used to have a YouTube channel. In fact, I got a bunch of those guys into Palladium. AJ Pickett was already into it, but I got a lot of those guys into Palladium books. And I remember, so we had started a group called the One Shot Group that used to be on Facebook, and we grew it to like 5,000 people. To the point where there were games every night thanks to this group, and we would all like jump into Google Hangouts, and some of us would just talk till like 4 in the morning about our games and the one shot that we played the previous day thanks to the group. And through this,
Sweet.
I feel like there were probably like 8 people who were buying Palladium books from their Christmas grab bags that year that wouldn't have been
Yeah.
buying it otherwise. I probably sold $1,000 worth of Palladium product at least over the course of like a month in that time for them. um,
Man, we need to
but
cut you a
yeah,
check. Not one thousand.
yeah, like, but like that, we would talk about it, and then I would tell them like the rules I didn't like or the things I would want to change, and stuff like that. But we played some fun games. Like we did a Ninjas and Super Spies game that was kind of
Mhm.
done like an '80s goofy action flick, like where my guy by
Karate
the end of
Kid
the
type
session
stuff.
was a pro wrestler that was like in the jungle, like power bombing people
What?
and stuff. Yeah, we were supposed to be like special operatives, and somehow my guy was like like mid session. I realized the DM was kind of giving us a little bit more player agency, and so I started like doing wrestling moves to people instead of like punching them. And he was like, "Yep, I'll allow it," and it was so much fun. We did
Said your no dodge is no match for my RKO.
yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. Uh and then there was a game I think AJ Pickett ran. If I remember right, it was kind of like Starship Troopers. I feel like we were I don't remember exactly, but I definitely had a character that was good with guns. I remember that much. And I think I had big guns with that made big explosions. But
That's all
again,
that
he
matters.
also allowed a lot of player agency. And if something was cool, we just went with it. Palladium Books tries to emulate reality, I think, with some of the mechanics. And I think at times that's fun, but when you really get away from that and let players do what they think is fun, the system actually is great. But that's
Mhm.
then you're only using like 20% of the system, you know? Um, but no, I've had fun. I've run a bunch of it. So we back in '97 when we were going to play that game, I made that alien. The other
Yeah.
player made a experimental character with some bionics. So he was experimented by the U.S. government, and he knew this spaceship was coming to Earth. Like, so the government was trying to be here, and then there was this like anti-alien unit. I was adamant I did not want to play Rifts. I wanted to play a superhero game. First
No.
session, my UFO comes down, this other character meets up with me, and then these NPCs, and then we go through a rift and we're in rifts. And it ruined
Oh,
what I wanted to happen because I wanted to play a superhero game. I did not want to play a post apocalyptic game. And that's what we ended up in. And it was like, well, now I'm not special. Like, I'm just like all the other superpowered creatures here. I'm not an alien. Everything's pretty much an alien now.
yeah. It's very funny because my first game of Heroes Unlimited
Here we
was
go.
very similar to that. So basically we spent so one of Rod's mutual friends, he was like, oh well, I'm going to run this game, right?
Yeah.
And it's Palladium, it's fun. And me, being the open-minded person that I am and always trying to try new stuff, I was like, oh, sure,
Yeah.
I like superheroes. Yeah. And so we go over there, and again, it takes us like an hour and some change to make characters, right?
Yep.
So we finish making them. I end up making, I think, oh, let me probe the memory banks here. I know he was Caucasian in his late 40s, wore a plaid shirt, and drove a Chevy, but I don't remember. Oh wait, his power. He was a doctor. He was a doctor. He was a washed up doctor. And his power was so minimal. Like he had like a fear aura, right?
Okay.
But it was like it
Yeah. A
was a
horror
minor
factor.
power.
Horror factor.
Yeah, horror factor. Exactly. Thank you.
Yep.
He had a horror factor, but it was like at like 3.
Oh, that's like not even worth it.
That's what, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he had it at that, and it was just like so. it's like, oh, he could just kind of make people uneasy for a little while, and I guess maybe that's why he, yeah. So we got recruited by
Was that his
not
only
Professor
power?
X. That was like literally his only power.
So you had like
That was
one
it.
minor power.
I rolled
Did,
one minor power. That's
so
what I
did you
got.
guys do the random rolls too for your
Yes,
character?
we did.
So okay,
Yes, we
that's
did,
the
sir.
other thing about Palladium. It doesn't. So if you do it by the book, you're supposed to randomly roll your superhero, which can
Yeah.
make some fun or some really weird combinations that make no sense. Like, why does this power also go with this? Like, my character can turn to jelly rolls, but he can also send out radioactive signals, or like I don't know. I guess that one kind of makes sense, but like, I don't know. Oh, his hand can turn into knife blades, but also he can turn into fire. What? Like, those don't go
Yeah,
together.
that
Like,
makes sense.
why?
That sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Let's
some
see.
weird combos for sure. Those are not the weirdest.
Yeah, but
It's
pretty
more fun
much
if you let people come up with a concept ahead of time and then figure out how to craft it around there.
yeah. So what we ended up doing, right? So we did our first session where we were working for not Professor X, and and he was like, "Oh, there's this alien invasion," and we got done fighting the aliens, right? He had to give me a power suit because like I really wasn't built for
Yeah.
this.
Yep.
And I'm okay. Like I don't mind playing like non-combat characters. In fact, a
Yeah.
lot of the times I'll be good with playing support characters or even comedic relief.
Yeah.
I've done that many times in Call of Cthulhu games.
Yeah.
But so, but yeah, so he gave me a battle suit, and then he just kind of flat out told us, and he was just like, "All right, this is kind of going to be like the what's the prelude to Rifts? You know the one I'm talking about, where it's
Like
got the glitter
Chaos
boy
Earth.
on the front. Yeah,
Okay.
this is
I
basically
don't
going to
own
be
that.
in
I
Chaos
know
Earth.
nothing about Chaos Earth really. And that's something I do
But
want to get.
yeah, but the cover always stood out to me though, and also
Yes, with the
because it
flag.
got like yeah, and the
Yep.
flag and super cool. But yeah, so he was just like, all right, well, we're basically just going to be doing Chaos Earths. I was like, oh, so we're doing Rifts. Okay, cool.
The alien
And
invasion
so
then turned to Chaos Earth. Was that what
yeah,
happened?
and then turn to Chaos Earth. Yeah, that's what happened.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, man.
And that wasn't
But
what you wanted to play. You wanted to be
it
a
wasn't
superhero.
what I wanted to play. I wanted to do this, man. No,
Yup.
but this okay. I know I said like, oh, you roll randomly, but
Yeah.
another part of it is that with MSH is that you don't it's not 100% random, right?
Mhm.
So you can choose your origin. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
roll a D100. You can be like, hey, I just want to be a mutant, and you
Yeah.
can be a mutant. And or when you're rolling for your powers, right? See what actual powers you get. You don't roll you don't have to roll the exact power. You
Mhm.
can roll the character or the power category, right?
Yep.
So so for example, if it's like, oh, I want to I rolled resistances for my first power, right?
Yep.
So that means you can pick from, if you want to, you can roll it randomly, but you can pick from all of the resistances that are there.
Mhm.
So that way you can piece together something that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, I have resistance to radiation and electrical manipulation. All right, those kind of make sense. Or resistance to electricity, and you could figure it out, put it together.
Yep.
It doesn't help with the power levels because the power levels are still random.
I think that's an
So the
inherent
GM still,
issue. That's an inherent
it is
issue in
an inherent
all
issue.
superhero RPGs.
It
Because
is.
even in Palladium, it's like you so I remember very clearly when I first started making characters, I'm like, wait, invulnerability. And then I remember people like I would say, why is this even an option? Why can I have invulnerability? Like you
Yeah.
can't kill me. And they're like, everyone I knew who played it was like, oh no, that just means the GM has to be more creative. They can still kill you. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, oxygen, you need oxygen to breathe. Well, what if I take this other ability that, like, so like there are some things you can kind of piecemeal, but back then I don't think there was. I think it was just invulnerability. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like, so as I've gotten older though, that it's like, okay, I get it. I came up on a game system that originally didn't have balance. I think that's why I'm 100% okay not having balance in any RPG. I don't give a shit. If like one, I don't this does not tell you how to make encounters. That's another flaw with like Palladium. It's like here's a bunch of stat blocks of things you can use, but it doesn't tell you like how to make an encounter, how to balance it. It just says choose like creatures that make sense or whatever. Um,
It's no help.
yeah, so it's not helpful. You just put what you want, and then if the players think it's too hard, they should run. Like that's it. Like you should run if you think it's too hard. Like so you could have one character rolled like 2 majors and 4 minors, so he's got 6 superpowers. This one over here
Yeah.
rolled like uh I don't know. They're just a freaking normal hardware human character that maybe can build stuff if you give them like 2 years to build it. Like,
Yeah.
like
Prep
the
time,
powers
as
are
usual.
just yeah, like they're just so unbalanced. But Rifts is the same way. You could have, like you said, a glitter boy in this super cool power armor that can destroy tanks and takes a ton of damage before it's unusable, and then the person just gets out of the suit and finds a new suit. Or you could be a little vagabond, which is just a little person that one hit from an MDC weapon kills you. One damage of an MDC weapon disintegrates you. Like
Or Juice, you could be a guy who knows how to read in the apocalypse.
right, you could be a scholar. Like but that's just the way it is. But like I don't know, I'm okay with it. It doesn't really bother me. I was gonna pull up the options because it's been a while since I've made a character.
Mhm.
There's a spot to roll for super abilities, which not everybody gets to roll on that table. Because again, you roll for a class first. And let's see, where is it? You can also, the other thing that is kind of cool is later on, it's like, say you make that hardware character. You can later on get experimented on to get superpowers. And then you just refer to the book and, you can do stuff like that. So it's kind of modular the way they've done it. And I do like that. But
And I
where
think
is it?
that's where Palladium has a bit of an edge over MSH in my
Yeah.
mind with the with progression, because
Hmm.
MSH is very much like status quo, God, and it emulates the fact that like because karma is your XP
Yeah.
and it's your it's your bennies, or your whatever we call it
Gosh,
nowadays.
you're using
Uh,
those bad words from that system.
okay, my bad. It's your player points
Right.
that you can use to finish and increase your runes.
Yep.
So you're supposed to use some and you're supposed to set aside some, but like ultimately the amount of and I talk about this in my Marvel video. I lay this all out, but
Hmm.
long story short, it takes an exorbitant amount of karma for you to even raise a stat just a little bit, just a
Right.
little, like incremental increases,
Hmm.
which is true to the genre. That's true. Like that's
Yeah.
how, like Flaming Torch, he always does Flaming Torch shit,
Yeah.
like, and when or like the thing, he's always got the strong shit. He rarely ever gets new powers, right?
Right.
Like, and that's how it is,
Yep.
but like but we know, me and you, we know we like to see the numbers go up. We like
Yeah.
to we like to have progression in our games, right? And
Palladium
and
has
most
that.
players do.
Yeah,
And Palladium
Palladium
has
has it. So like although it's a little different, like I don't think most abilities get better, but your hand-to-hand style gets better. So
yeah,
you do level with XP. XP is determined, they have a chart of different things that can give you XP. Saving someone's life gives you XP. Um doing selfless acts can lead to more XP than say killing a minor foe or subduing a minor villain or whatever. Killing a character doesn't necessarily give you XP. It might actually, be a bad thing because it's against your alignment. Alignments are not the same way they were in D&D though, where in this alignments there's still like 6, I think, but it's like scrupulous or principled, and it gives you like things about them, like their code, right? So like your principled character is your Superman, goody goody Boy Scout character. You have some selfish alignments, which are more like Punisher. I'll just throw him in there, where like he might say screw the law in order to do something because the law is corrupt, right? And he doesn't trust the law, or so there's some gray areas, and then there's just a couple evil ones where it's like, oh yeah, that's just Joker, like chaotic
Yes.
evil, kind of character, which I think is considered, the alignment is called diabolic. So
Ah,
it
yeah.
kind of matches it. And it gives you examples of the type of character that would fit these different things. Like one example is like Clint Eastwood in the old Wild West movies, and
And with no name. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Um, you know,
Or Suicide
there's
Squad. Some of them are definitely diabolical in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's got like little things that kind of mesh with it. Um, but the other, like, there's also magic characters. There's psionics, and like I don't like either of those. I've never, if I've made a magic character, I only did it where they had a magical artifact, which gave them superpowers. I don't want to deal with
Ah,
spells
yeah.
in Palladium, at least in the superhero part. I have no interest in that. Same thing with the psionics. I don't like how the psionics are done, because it
Ah,
magic and psionics are, they have different pools
they're two.
for how
Yeah,
you.
they're two separate things. Yeah.
Yeah, one is potential psychic energy, which I think is actually the magic user, and the other one is inner strength points, which is for the psionic user. And you
Uh-huh.
spend those to do the abilities that you pick for those things. All of those are less powerful than being a superhero character who can shoot projectiles or electrocute or use fire. Like, because they
And
just
then
can
also
do it
with the
indefinitely.
mages,
Yeah.
there's ritual rules for if you want to pool your, or well, I mean, they probably have that for psionics too. But if you want to pool those points or take them from other people, aren't using them because other
Yeah.
people they still can calculate to have those points. So
Yeah.
other people have psionic points, they're just not using them because they're not
Yeah.
psionics.
So
So
everybody in Rifts gets the psionic potential psychic energy or whatever.
yeah.
And so certain creatures will like absorb it. Yeah. Like they'll eat it,
Hmm.
and like vampires, they're PPE vampires. They'll like suck your blood and get your PPE. And so then they are more powerful because of it. Like,
Sure.
yeah.
Your,
I
your,
don't know.
your EP? What?
PPE,
Man, those,
potential psychic energy. Yeah, so I don't like that part of the system either. Again, I am not a purist. I definitely acknowledge there are flaws with the game, and then there are just things I don't like. The the reason that I have not played a lot of Palladium books is I could not find people. I grew, like, when I was playing this, I was in Ypsilanti and Saline, Michigan. So I originally, well, Ypsilanti is like 10 minutes away from Palladium Books headquarters, maybe a little bit longer. Yeah, Saline is like 40 minutes, right? So I got the chance to play in a game at a library in Westland, Michigan, and I've met Kevin a few times and met some of his employees. Um, but to try and find people who want to play Palladium books that close to the headquarters was near impossible. Couldn't find the books in
oh,
stores when I was in high school or beyond. Um, and the only way I could get it is if I ordered it offline that I knew of. Riders Hobby had some for a while, but then that specific location went out of business. The next Riders Hobby I knew of didn't have it. The game stores I knew of never had it. So I couldn't even find it unless I ordered it online, living a half hour away.
it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Because like I can go down to like my local comic book store and they have like
Yeah.
4 or 5 Palladium books up
Oh, I'm
there that I
sure.
can
I
grab
so
for cheap.
I did see this book at a place in Ann Arbor called Vaults of Midnight. They had the book. I saw it in 2014. Obviously, I already had this, so I didn't need it. But they had
Yeah,
the book, and they said they had it in stock for over 15 years. Yes,
over 10 years.
yes, that's what I was told. And that was the day I bought the Marvel Heroic Role Playing, where it was the dice pool game. And I didn't
Hmm.
like that game. I tried to dabble with it once, and I was like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't like it. It was the Margaret Weiss game. And other people
Oh
loved
yeah,
the
yeah,
game. Other people loved it that I would talk to, and I was like, I'm not into it. And so I gave it away.
yeah.
There was like a Secret Santa gift or whatever I did, and I gave it to somebody. I don't remember who. Um, but yeah. So, anyways, so that was the hard thing. And then when I met my wife in 2010, and I didn't know this until I moved in with her. As soon as I moved in with her, I wanted to put my Palladium books on on her bookshelf because I was moving in with her, and she had AD&D books. And so then I said, I will run Palladium if you'll run D&D. And that was the first time I had ever played D&D was in 2010.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because
That's
like I had friends who played D&D in high school, but they had a full like 12-person group because everyone had like
oh
their
yeah.
girlfriends too. And they played around an air hockey table and they did D&D 3.5. But I couldn't play with them because it was full. So, and they had been playing
Ooh,
for years together.
12 people. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
hell of a game, right?
Yeah.
That's man, they were just hanging out. They weren't actually playing. There's no
Right.
way.
Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, up until college, I still couldn't play with them because it was too full. But it was like them and then like their brother or their sisters. So like you had a brother combo, their two girlfriends. There's four of them. There was another guy, his sister and his sister's boyfriend. And then there was this girl and her sister. And I don't there. So maybe there was 10 people off the bat.
Either way,
Oh no,
that's
11
still
because there was another guy who didn't have anybody, just himself, and he
that's
DM'd.
still a massive group. Because like
Yeah,
I'll run games with like, you know, six people show up,
that's too
and
much for
some
me.
people they'll be like, whoa, what are we having? What are we wow, this is gonna be a huge party. What are we playing? We're playing
Right?
Baldur's Gate, and I was like, no, dude,
Six
this
is
is
too
this is
much for me.
not.
I think
I
that's my
hear I hear
cutoff.
so many people say that, Juice. Like,
Yeah,
man, like 4 tends to be the sweet spot, right? Like
I
that's
agree.
that's what everybody wants. But in when I'm running like more D&D-ish, like with because the superhero games, right? Like it
Yeah,
doesn't team makeup matters a little bit less because you can have like spontaneous like guest heroes come in, like, all right, Cap's helping you out today, or yada
yep,
yada. People are like, oh yeah, and you can have stuff like that. But like with D&D, like, and you need just like, all right, I have this module. We need 4 people, right?
yeah,
If you already have a group of 4 people, now if 2 people can't make it, now you can't have a session.
mm-hmm.
Whereas if you have 6 to 7, even 8, now it's like, okay, well, 2 people, we still got 6. All right, module says we can do at least 4 people, so we got at least 4 people.
Yeah,
People that can't make it, all right, cool. They don't get any XP, and we'll see them next time when they can opt back in. But yeah, because it's a team game, and it really shows.
yep.
Um, but that's also another thing that I like about superhero games, where you can run smaller groups and
Mhm.
not like have to worry too much about team composition, I
Do
guess.
you worry
Like,
about team composition? Like, say you're playing DD as a DM, do you even worry about it?
oh yeah, dude. Oh, because okay,
You
I
try
don't
to
know.
make balanced encounters though. Do you try to
No,
do
no,
the
no, no.
math
See,
for it?
I, it mostly comes with no. I definitely don't. No, 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 no,
Okay.
no. Because challenge rating, it's a myth. All right, it's a beautiful lie.
I
All
love it.
right,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
but all right, yeah, but but no, it truly is because like players are so much more smarter sometimes than you give them credit for, and they'll come
Hmm.
up with ways that you didn't even that the game designers didn't think of, that they didn't go through in
Yeah.
playtesting, and they'll have a combination of powers that
Yep.
wasn't playtested or wasn't even thought of really.
Yeah.
Um, my thing is I like when it comes to giving out loot, right? Because with old D&D, like there's certain loot only works for certain people, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, if I plant a dungeon with scrolls, I need people
Who
who
can read
can
them
use,
and use them?
yeah, who
Yep.
can read them and use them. So yeah, if I have a party of all fighters, I have to take that into account. Or if I have a party half clerics, half rangers, I have to take that into account
Yeah.
when I'm seeding the dungeons, and also like what like, oh, maybe I'll drop something in there for one of their gods, or maybe a quest or two.
Yeah.
But no, when it comes to actual like, is this too deadly for them? I do. It is what it is, man. it
Well, like, so the thing that
is what it
people,
is.
so that the group that I play with that has the people who only came up with AD&D, they think of
Yeah,
classes as roles, right? Like
yeah.
cleric, healer, rogue, the pick locks and
Sneaky guy.
check for traps. The
Yeah,
ranger, check for wilderness
trekking.
traps. Like they don't
Yeah.
think of it even like tracking or what. I guess they do,
Wow.
but you know what? Like I don't know. It's small view, I guess, of how these things are. Like boom, and then outside of
Yeah.
that box, they have a hard time fathoming for some reason. Whereas me, like, so when I DM, I don't give a crap if it's all fighters or whatever. Now, if they say they 5e is different, right? Because every class can kind of heal itself with a short rest and using their hit dice and things like that. So you don't have to give them things like healing potions or whatever. But you can be nice and be like, you know what? I know they don't have a cleric. Here's a couple healing potions. I have been known to do that at times, okay? But I don't fudge dice rolls at all. So this is my way of kind of throwing them a bone, right? Give them some healing potions or whatever. The other thing, and I don't even know what the actual 5e rules are. I feel like you have to be a certain class to read a certain scroll, spell, and whatever. I don't give a shit about that. To me, I would literally just do an arcana check, whether they have the skill or not. If it's like,
Mhm.
a level 4 spell, then I would probably make it a DC 14 arcana check, just hypothetically. Or, maybe even a little higher, because maybe you need some proficiency too. So it would be like 17 or something. You know what I mean? It's not going to be impossible, but if they want to
Yeah.
try to use it, they can. Worst case scenario, they do use the spell properly and it works, or
Yeah.
it just doesn't work and they have to try again later. And then they just waste their action trying to do it in combat to do a fireball as a class that shouldn't be able to do a fireball. But if they do it, it's cool. And now the scroll's gone, you know?
Just the hobby's a little bit like more lenient when it comes to like having other people that can do spell casting. Because like
Yeah.
I mean, even if you want to play a fighter, there's like a like a spell singer
Yep. There's
type
an
class
Eldritch
you
Knight.
can do.
There's,
Yeah, Eldritch Knight. Mhm.
yep.
And the
Or you could take the
subclasses
feat, Magic Initiate.
were that too. I remember taking
Mm-hmm.
that for an Italian warlock. I was playing.
Okay. There's
um,
Italians in your D&D?
no, it was
Inspired.
like, yeah, it was inspired. And my friend, he was like, oh, well, they're kind of similar to Italians. And I was like,
Was he a
well, there we
plumber
go. He was, he
that liked
was,
mushrooms?
he was not. He was
Okay.
a warlock who was trying to figure out where to scatter his mother's ashes before his 24th birthday.
Okay.
So, and or something bad would happen.
Nice.
And yeah, of course, he had the Eldritch Blast because
Right.
that's funnest thing in 5e in my opinion. Just being able to shoot people, just
Yeah. Yeah.
Eldritch Blast all day.
But so
Um,
you do worry though about the composition of a party.
oh yeah, no, I definitely, I worry about it like once play is already there, like before play, right? When we're doing a session zero and everybody's deciding what they want to play, I take that all into account. So I'm like, all right, we got two
Mhm.
clerics, two fighters, one ranger, one elf. All right, cool. All right, so
Oh
we
yeah,
got
you're
one
talking
magic.
old school D&D, so that's why an elf is a
Yeah, because
class
that's
for you.
what. Yeah, that's like I run
That
two
system's
Beckme
wrong,
games.
by the way.
Is
It's totally wrong.
what?
You can't have an elf as a class or a dwarf
What?
as a class.
What? No,
I
you
don't
know
like that.
what?
I
I
hate that about the
I
old game.
no, it's crazy because like I've talked to some people who've joined my games who didn't like it at first, but like it just kind of becomes like it's like, well, this is just what I do,
I started with
and
AD&D when it comes to D&D, but I don't like
well,
that.
because AD&D has race and class, so you
Yeah.
can kind of, yeah. But I like to bring in alternate books that
Yeah.
like give you more classes and stuff too. So like I'm
I
like, all
also
right,
hate
well,
the minimum requirements for classes in the
now
old
that
D&D. I hate that too.
no, Juice, that I'm okay with because
I
I'm
hate it.
just okay. Here's the thing.
If I
Here's the
want to be
thing,
an
man.
inferior fighter, I should be able to be an inferior fighter. Like
If you
straight
no,
up.
but you okay. Well, in the edition of D&D I run, you can because all of the four classes like magic user,
Yeah.
cleric, thief, and fighter, they don't have requirements. Like you can
Mhm.
always play. You can be a shitty fighter, you can be a shitty thief, you can be a shitty magic user. But like for something like
A bard
if
or
you
a
want to
paladin, you
be
need to
a
have
bard,
prerequisites. Hmm.
yeah, like it's like or yeah, like a paladin. Like he needs to have a certain amount of charisma because that is what he does. He's
I
a fighter,
understand. I
yeah,
still think it's stupid.
but he he needs to be able to inspire people. That is part of
Nah.
what He does.
No, he
He
can
needs to have
try.
a certain. Oh man. So
I
you're
so
gonna.
I like have like so I don't subscribe that every character needs to be inferior to be interesting. But I like players being able to play whatever the hell they want. Like I like going to a group session 0 and saying I'm going to play a paladin and then roll stats, dice,
Mhm.
like say I'm playing an old school game, I don't mind if it's roll the dice and leave them as they are. In fact, I think that's more fun in the old school D&D, but remove the prerequisites for classes. So now, yeah, I just rolled a 7 in strength and a 10 in charisma. Like, maybe my dex is my best score, whatever. Like, point is, though, I'm still a paladin. I'm just a really shitty one. Like, to me, far more interesting, far more fun. So, I've never run AD&D. I don't think I ever will, but I've played it. And I've always hated that when I've had a DM that says you can't play this if you're doing it this way. You know, that irritates me because it's like, well, I want to be that. Like, I don't know. Fine, just being a fighter. I don't care. But and I've had DMs who
What's
do
it?
the rule where it's like, yeah, drop it by 2. You can add 1 over here. I've had
Yeah.
DMs that say roll 4d6, drop the lowest across the board. I've had it where it's placed where you want. Like I've played a variety of ways with old school D&D, and I'm fine with any way you want to do the stats. Don't
Mhm.
I don't want to do reroll once. I never want to do that. I don't like that one.
Reroll.
Yeah, especially since they usually pair that up with the 4d6 drop the lowest. And I understand the only reason they do this is because of the freaking minimum requirements for some of these classes, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
these are workarounds because of that stupid thing. Like you
It's like,
wouldn't
yeah,
need
you need a
them.
14 in charisma on 3d6.
Yeah.
That's you're probably not getting
And he's
that,
going to
bro.
die the first session anyway. So what's it matter?
Oh man. But no, I think I don't know. I think it's cool that like
So what if you don't have a
I
rogue in your party and you're DMing an old school D&D game? How do you handle that?
all rogues are because that
Because now they can't
sucks
unlock
so
certain doors. And now all the
uh
traps are going to get them all.
yeah. See what I do, right? Because
But nobody wants to
typically
play the rogue.
Typically, no, because the attrition rate is so high with rogues, because they're
Right.
usually out front and gotta check the traps. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but no, like sometimes because I use alternate classes in a lot of my games, they'll pick a guy who might have some trap finding skill,
Sure.
or like it's like, oh, well, I can do rogue stuff, I can do pickpocketing, right? But I can't do climbing, or I can do unlocking stuff, like, but I can't do pickpocketing. I don't have the backstab, things like
Right.
that.
I also hate
So
that about the old one is that if you aren't that class, you can't do those certain things or whatever. You know what I mean? Like by the rules raw.
yeah, but when you start getting money, and this is one thing because I run a lot of
You
sandbox
buy the
campaigns, when you
servants or
start getting
whatever.
money, yeah, you can hire, like, if you say, dang, man, we've really needed somebody to pick these fucking locks because we found a chest and we can't open, and it's an iron chest, and like we've been trying to pry it open, and buy a guy, like, or
Mm-hmm.
like hire a dude, like, your DM's gonna, because here's the thing with D&D, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
always you always need a money sink, right? You always need to have something to do with the gold,
Unless
whether
I'm
it
DMing
be
and I forget to give gold all the time. I don't even think
no, but
about it
with
until players say, how much gold was in there? Shit.
but with old school, because it's tied to the amount of XP you get, because it's 1 XP per gold, right?
Yeah, that's another thing
So
I don't like. But yeah,
well, see, I really
I
like that
understand
because
it
it
though.
encourages, yeah, it encourages more like exploration and discourages jumping straight into combat.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can find a way to get that money, it doesn't matter if you kill the dragon. If you get half of his horde, if you manage to trick him or mind
Yeah.
control him, and you get
Nobody's
half of
mind
his gold.
controlling a dragon, especially at low
Oh, that's
levels.
that might be much. But like if let's say you appeal to the dragon's sense of arrogance and you're able to
Sure.
trick him, like it's like how the
Bilbo.
Hobbit or not Bilbo tricked Smaug.
Yep.
You'd still get XP,
Sure.
and it's like, well, you can still come back and kill him, there's all
Does the Arkenstone get you to like level 13 though? Like I feel like at
Oh
first
no.
level, if you got the
It,
Arkenstone, that's worth enough gold because it's the only jewel of its kind. Like you basically max out,
yeah,
depending on what class tops out at what level. Again,
and
something
see.
stupid about
No,
AD&D or
that
old
that I
D&D.
actually that I kind of don't like, but I think the ethos was like they wanted because from what I've read, uh, Gary and a few of the old guys they liked having a human centric world, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of wanted people to have the because like based off of the because when you read the old like pulp stories, it's humans, it's
Yeah.
like Conan, he's
Unless
a
you're a
human,
druid, then you have
you
to
know.
kill the master druid just because.
Oh yeah,
Like,
you
go
gotta
find the
when you
master
get to
druid.
level 30, and you
Yeah.
gotta find. Yeah, that's crazy.
Right. You gotta go
But
murder hobo, some poor old man in the woods who just is having fun
uh,
with some
he
animals.
he knows what's up, bro. He know what he did to get here.
Yeah. He
He knew he
killed
had
one
this
too.
coming. He's waiting like Justice from Afro Samurai. He's like yeah, I knew you'd come back with the head man. Yeah, I did.
What if he dies of old age though and there's no master druid to kill?
Wow, I never thought of that. Shoot,
Right?
does it just go to like the most senior, or like do they
No,
have
because you
to?
have to kill the master druid, right?
I mean, as the rules written.
If Bruce Lee is the master druid and he just dies of old age, because no one in D&D is going to kill him because there's no guns. So, or if Chuck Norris was a master druid, like he's not going to die.
But no, but no. I remember I wanted to say something about magic users in Marvel in
Okay.
MSH because you were talking
How bad it
about
is
the
in
guys that
Palladium?
played. Yeah. So in MSH, right, they had a whole separate like book for the advanced, and it had
Hmm.
had Doctor Strange on the front. He's doing his mystical shoot 'em a boob,
Yeah.
and and it kind of was like, oh, well, here's how, yeah, his whole like,
Yeah.
and and its whole thing was that it made magic like way more complicated.
Hmm.
And like so you split it into three different energies. So you have dimensional energy, personal energy, and then a
Okay.
third kind. So it's like, oh, if you're drawing from like a being like Dormammu, right? That's dimensional.
Okay.
Or but if you're drawing for your own reservoirs, that's personal. And then the third one was like something else, I forget. And it was mostly meant for like magical campaign. So it's like assume that everybody's playing a character like like Black Knight, somebody who has like the magic sword, or like a
Hmm.
Doctor Strange, Doctor Fate type dude.
Yep.
But in this, the rules are like very lax. Like in this advanced
Yeah.
revised, or sorry, basic revised, it's very lax, and there's no distinction. Like there's no separate distinction for psionics either. Like with
Mm.
psionics, it's just like, all right, you just got your telekinetic, bro. Like we want. Um,
Right. And you can just
but
kind
like
of do it at will.
yeah, and you just kind of do it.
That's how
There's
it should be.
no
Yeah.
limiters other than what you and your GM decide to place on your character.
Yeah.
So if you want to be like, all right, well, I'm gonna pass out like Jean Grey every time I use
Yeah.
telekinesis.
Right. I
you
see, and I
know, if,
like
if
that. Like,
if
I
you
think
guys
that's the
decide.
thing. Like so Palladium, the magic and the psionics, I think are fine in the context of their fantasy line, and I think it's fine in their riffs line. It's just within the superhero line for me, it feels inferior and not good. Like I don't know of I have never played in a group where anybody has wanted to be magic or psionics. Now, they can be pretty good, like depending on the choices within it and things like that. I talked to people online who love to play a magic user or psionics in Heroes Unlimited, and they've tried to sell me on it because there's like some cool things you can do that are pretty powerful or whatever. But once you use up your
The adhesive
reservoir or
carpet
whatever,
one.
what's that?
I heard the adhesive carpet. One of them, like somebody said that was
Probably.
like really good because it's like, oh, it can trap anything basically as long as you're in that line of it.
Probably. Like I don't even spend time thinking about it. And I'll be honest, even when I play D&D, I couldn't tell you like all the spells in D&D and like all the good ones or the ones to take, because I don't play a lot of magic users. I like martial characters. Um,
Same. Human fighter all the way, baby.
yeah, and like I have a couple go-to spells when I'm a DM that I like to use for certain creatures or wizards or whatever, but I don't put a lot of thought into the actual spells. I barely read over the spells. Like it's just not a thing I get excited about. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm not a purist when it comes to Palladium. It's just it's nostalgia, I think, and I can do what I want within the system. You know, love again the active defense because it keeps the whole table engaged the whole time. Which I don't know about your D&D groups, but I've played in quite a few where if it's not your turn and it takes 10 minutes to come back to you, people start doing other shit. You know, whether it's, oh, they get up and go get food and don't pay attention, so they don't even know what's happening, or they, decide to screw around on their phone, or, like people do stuff, you know?
See, but that's an easy fix actually. And I've introduced some of my some of my friends
Okay.
where they're just like, oh, this is how I do initiative. So so yeah, like um group initiative
I knew
is
you were going
is
there.
really because it's the best way to go because like
Yeah.
every time simple one person rolls a d6, other person rolls a d6, and actually this is what you call it, this is also you can also do group initiative in this too,
See,
and I feel like
superheroes makes a lot of sense to me because you can do combinations of powers to do
yeah,
different things. Like, oh, the Hulk wants to pick up Wolverine and chuck him like a javelin. Like, okay, that's a
uh,
combo. That's a team thing. It would require a little bit of teamwork. So it
exactly.
makes
So you
sense.
have to, yeah. So you
Hmm.
have to have because you can't have those cool moments.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, Colossus, he's gonna throw Wolverine through the Sentinel. You can't have moments like that
Right.
if the individual didn't, if it's like, okay, well, you have to go, and now I can't move my initiative order up because that's not how the game works, and yada yada.
You know
But
what,
with
though? You could come up with a flexible initiative system for a game that if you're like instead of doing group you still do individual initiative. If the
Mhm.
first person wants to do a combo with someone down here, they
Yeah,
can. You just skip that person down there on their turn.
mhm.
So
That's
maybe
definitely
you could come up with like rules for teamwork that would.
if they want to cooperate, like
Yeah.
when you have your own initiative. I've noticed like when people say like, oh, it's when they roll there because individual initiative is easier to track. It's easier
Mhm.
on the DM's personal because you can just write it down, boom, boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom,
I have a tower thing with the magnets for
and you
for it.
just slot them in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have a
exactly.
sword. So I got the Brothers Forge one where it's got a sword handle and you just move it down the
Oh,
guys.
that's
So and then it's got like the wood. So then it's like bloop bloop bloop, and I just rearrange them. It's awesome. Love that thing. It's also $200. Brothers Forged. It's awesome. Go check it out, guys.
awesome. I definitely got to check it out.
And
But
the first one I got, because the magnets were done in an inefficient way, they
mhm.
literally had a new design for how the wood was, where the magnets are now in it, and they just sent it to me one day. Like it wasn't, and it was like
Nice.
much after. It wasn't like they reached out and said, "Hey, do you want these better?" Like they just sent it to me. I was like, "Oh, this is awesome."
See, you run more home games than me, so you're actually getting more use out of that bad boy than I
Uh,
would.
I don't run that many
That's
home games. Most of my games are
what do you
online. Yeah.
really?
I have one group that plays
Wow.
at home, and then occasionally I'll play with my kids now. But those are all family games. I haven't played a non-family oriented home game in 3 years at home. And that actually was a streamed game. We started it in person because multiple YouTube creators live in the area. So, like
Mhm.
Luke from the DM Lair lives 30 minutes east. Nate
Nice.
WASD20 literally lived like 4 blocks away from me at one point. Um, Jake from Mini Terrain Domain lives in Hastings, which is not far from me either. It's like 30 minutes. Um, there's Randall Hampton, who made the little Game Master stuff. He lives in Rockford. However, I have not played with him in person, only online and streamed games. But I've seen him at
Pretty cool.
conventions and hung out with. Like all these people I've hung out with for a little bit at least. Um, some of them, like Nate, I've been to his house a couple times, both like his old house and his new house. He's been
Mhm.
to my houses, So yeah. Anyways, so I've played with those guys in person, except for Randall, um, and that was cool. But that was our stream Descent into Avernus campaign. That was the last one that was like a friend in-person game.
And also, you brought up you play a game with your kids, right?
Yes.
So with again, I'm trying to sell you on this, man. With the Marvel superheroes, Juice, I'm telling you, dude, like this is actually the first game I played with my son and his cousin. And man, when I tell you it was like so much fun because it's just you say, hey, which hero do you want to play? And my son, he's like, all right, I want to play Spider-Man because everybody knows Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And his cousin's like, oh well, I'm gonna play Daredevil. And so they're over here, they're mixing it
Yeah.
up with robots. We got the little figurines and
Hell yeah. When
and
I
I think it's really good to get kids into.
yes.
It's a great game for again for anybody trying to get into RPGs, but like especially for kids because you got that brand recognition right there because
Yeah.
your kids know who the Hulk is. Come on now, like
So
who doesn't want to play with the Hulk?
my 12-year-old, when she was 5 or 6, I tried to get her
Mhm,
into RPGs then. But I didn't use a book. Like I gave her 3 things her character could do. Like she could do
mhm.
like fire spells. So she could do a wall of fire, she could shoot a firebolt, and she had a flaming sword that she could attack with. Those are her 3 things that she could do in combat. And I told her you can do other things too. And like I'd put a map down, she wanted a miniature, and so we did it more like a board game, and like she didn't have to track anything. That was how I got her into it. She was part of the D&D group or club at her school last year, so she ran some games, played with some games. I had to teach her that one of her DMs was a total douchebag because they were given very minimal help from the person running the whole thing. And so I was like, yeah, you were with somebody who was literally just like trying to kill your characters. Like that was not how it should be done. I remember having some serious conversations. But then when she ran the game, like it went well. They were basically given a scenario and character choices, like pre-gen character choices for every single thing every week, and the DM was supposed to change every week, and they were supposed to try things, and so it was 5e based, but they were never told how the rules of 5e work. They were just kind of like, here's your group, figure it out as you go. And so these kids who don't know anything and aren't given like best practices, nothing, were running pretty chaotic games. And so I worked with my daughter a little bit to help her when I was like, hey, make sure you do this and try to let the players shine, and you know give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt, and trying to make it as fun as possible, because even when she played with groups that were familiar with stuff like Critical Role or whatever, she would explain like, yeah, they would like tell these elaborate stories and it was awesome, and I'm like, and they entertained you, right? So your job is to also entertain everybody else too, as a player, like not just yourself. Like it's a group thing. And so
It's a group thing, right?
she got so much better because of it. My 9-year-old son uh recently has shown a lot of interest, but has had a hard time sitting down. So my daughter and they play at um the sister-in-law of my brother-in-law's house. So we've been
Yeah.
over there, and they sit with these other kids, and she runs a game for them. And after about 30 minutes, you can see some of the attention spans start to go out the window, and it's hard for the younger ones. But so they've played, and then I've started running for the 9-year-old. We've done a session 0, but we did it
Okay.
differently than how most people do. So I did it where they had options in the game that made their
Mhm.
character. So like you're in a room, there's like 5 things. What do you want to do? Oh, I interact with the sword. Great. Maybe that sword
So
makes you
like
a
Kingdom
fighter.
Hearts, like the opening of that when he's having the dream sequence, and Sora he's like, oh, which one do I want to pick? I'll pick the
Yeah, like so your
yeah.
room 1, you pick something, it gives you something on your sheet, right? But I also didn't give them a character sheet at first. Then,
Mhm.
room 2, and this went through multiple things, and then they had a battle in this open room, and then the ceiling collapsed to kind of like destroy this place. And that was like the session 0. And I was like, all right, you got your stuff. This is what you were, and this. If they didn't like it, I'd let them change it, but ultimately the choices were supposed to be what would your character do, make choices that you
Mhm.
think they would do in order to craft what you want to be. And so they ended up with
Yeah.
some interesting combinations. They didn't even know what race their characters were. So
Yeah.
I think my wife chose something thinking it was going to make her something else, and was surprised when it made her, I think, a barbarian. I think she thought it was going to make her a druid, and it made her like a barbarian or something. I don't know. I'd have to look because it's been a minute 'cause we haven't tried to set up that next game because the weather's been nice. Um,
Yeah, awesome.
but we still have to do the next session. We haven't done that yet. So I don't even remember what they all ended up with. But it was my 12-year-old, my 9-year-old, and my wife are my players for that. And so we're going to see where that goes. But my 5-year-old really wants to play D&D. So recently I did the same thing I did with my daughter. All right, I let them choose a miniature. They chose the dwarf. They want to be like a knight, so obviously they're a fighter, But then I
Mhm.
gave them party members they can also control to do some of the other stuff, like a spell and whatever, right? And I
Yeah.
let them choose out of different characters. And I tried to do the main roles, right? Like, here, you choose this or this. Oh, okay, that one's this. So they've got like a
Mhm.
bard that's also their thief. They've got a wizard and a cleric with them. And then obviously they're a
Okay.
fighter. But
Yeah.
like little goblin encounters, you have like 2 or 3 things you can do, or you can be creative, whatever you can think of. All he wants to do is kill stuff. Like that's all he wants to do. And so we've played a couple times for about 30 to 40 minutes each, but they're having a blast to the point where when we go driving, they want to talk about D&D. So we had an impromptu D&D session while I was driving the other day where I told him, I was like, you can just play D&D while I'm driving. He's like, how? I'm like, well, you don't need dice to play. I was like, you just say what you want to do, and then the other person bounces off that idea. So I gave him a scenario in a room with like 3 creatures and didn't tell him what the creatures were, just described what they looked like. And he said, I want to hit the one in the middle. I'm like, cool, the 2 on the outside grab you after you hit the first guy. You knock the guy down, he gets up, and now he pulls a weapon and tries to attack you. You're being held, so it hits you automatically. Like they thought it was the coolest thing that you could play an RPG without dice.
I mean, no, it's really, I mean, because that's really what it boils down to is like working your imagination out and like
Yes.
really, because that's what a lot of people like. Imagination is a skill. Like
Mm-hmm.
imagination is something that needs to be cultivated, right?
Yes.
Like, and that's why like it's so important, you know? That's like that's also why later on next month I'm partnering with this nonprofit called Let's Quest. You mind
Oh,
if I plug them for a
plug it,
second?
plug away. Yeah.
All right, sweet. So it's called Let's Quest. It's based out in Tampa, Florida, and yeah, they provide physical materials and digital materials and tutorials for teachers, parents, and other like facilitators for after school programs,
That's
and to
cool.
get those kids, help get some of these kids starting adventuring,
Yeah.
and like, and it's not just, when I first looked into this, I thought it was just going to be 5e. Oh,
It's like kids on
they've partnered with
bikes and
yeah, there's a bunch of different
yeah.
stuff. They've partnered with Magpie Games, Hit Point Press, and a few other ones.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so we're going to be doing a stream on Free RPG Day. That's going
Oh,
to be
cool.
June 22nd.
Yep.
And yeah, man, it's going to be great. We're gonna try to get some people some free RPGs, get some kids some free RPGs, get some books out there in circulation, and
Yep.
it's going to be a great time because it's really important, that kids have good after school activities as well,
I
so
agree.
they're not running around doing whatever they're not supposed to be
Yeah,
doing.
it keeps kids out of trouble. Yep.
Keeps them out of trouble. And yeah, man, I think it's great that you're playing with your kids and having this great time,
Oh, I
man.
love it.
And like
It's
it's
crazy.
fun, man.
Kids come up with
It,
some fun stuff.
man, oh man, my son's cousin.
My
I was
5-year-old just wants to
playing
hit
a
things, but the others come up with some fun stuff.
so we were playing a game because like he was curious about and it was I shouldn't even call it a game because it was literally like 5 minutes of role play.
Sure.
But I was going over my West End Star Wars
Yep.
RPG books, right? And he noticed it, because again, it's the big blue book with the second edition with Darth Vader on the front,
Okay.
big old head right there.
West End
And
was
so
that?
he's like,
That's
"Oh,
not the D20. That's the D6 one.
yeah, D6 dice pool and all that.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it was fun." And so he saw me reading. I was like, "Hey, what you reading there?" And I was like, "Oh, just reading a game." And it kind of like blew his mind for a second. He's like, "What? That's a game?"
A book
And I
is
was
a
like,
game.
"Yeah." And I was like, "You want to play it?" And he was like, "Sure." And I was like, "What do you want to play as?" And he pointed to Darth Vader's head. And I was like, "You want
Hell
to play
yeah,
as
he
Darth
does.
Vader?" And he was like, "Sure, yeah, he's cool. He has a lightsaber, right?" I was like, "He does indeed." And so I set the scene. All right. The Star Destroyer looks out over an unknown planet, and Darth Vader and all his uh, dark magnificence stands on the bridge with various
Yep.
officers running to and fro, avoiding his gaze. And so I'm just like, "What would you like to do?" And he's just
Force
like,
choke them all. No.
No, no, no. Here's what he did. He said, "What's that outside?" And so I answered him like in character as like one of the officers like rushing to, it's like, "Oh, that is sector such and such, my lord," and all that. And he was like, "No, no, but like, what is it?" He's like, well, it's the space, sir." And he's like, "Well, I want to go outside in the space."
Oh no.
And he was like, "Well, I can get you a shuttle, my lord." And he was just
Oh
like, "No,
god.
I'm going right outside."
He's just like, I'm flying out there.
he chopped open the he chopped open the bridge window and just jumped.
Oh jeez.
It was so funny. I was just like,
I
it
can see why it was only 5 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
was great, man. I was laughing for the rest
That's
of the
awesome.
day. Oh man, I was like, and that is how Darth Vader died in our universe.
No, that's
but
not
but no,
bad.
after yeah, and so like a few weeks after that, we played the Marvel game, and
Yep.
he had a blast with that, and my son had a blast with that. I was like, "Oh man, this is," because there's this really weird because like people think that you need to I don't know, people underestimate kids. I think like they
Yeah.
underestimate the intelligence of children,
Yeah, they
and
feel like they
it's
have to
like,
handcuff them and like guide them along, and you don't really have to.
yeah,
Just follow the kid's lead.
yeah, exactly. A lot of the times they'll can or you can intuit what they're trying to do based on what they're based
Yep.
on what they're telling you. And yeah, it was just like that. I was like, I don't need, because I know there are some games out there that are like, it's like, oh, this is meant for kids and this is super simple. And it's like, no, no, kids can understand pretty complex concepts. They
Yeah.
understand owner and like, or they can understand like, oh, this is the bad guy and what he's doing is wrong and all. They can
Yeah.
understand all that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't need like a
So
Candyland theme game in order to play RPG. Like I do think
yeah,
like character sheets can be too much for small kids. So
that
you
I
do got
agree.
to simplify that. But the actual like
The actual playing of the game, yeah.
yeah, the theme of the game doesn't have to be like teddy bears and candy.
Yeah,
Like it can
exactly.
be creatures that look different from each other. It can be heck, it could just be humans, like whatever. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. If your kid's into Star Wars, it could be a Star Wars game. If your kid's into superheroes, it could be that. If they're into Ryan's World, you can make a Ryan's World theme with stuff around that. So Pokemon, like people have made D&D versions of Pokemon, like whatever they're into, tailor it around that.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter,
Um,
Zelda, you know, like why not? I,
oh
I think that'd
man.
be a blast.
Gotcha.
So do you stream your games?
No, not really,
No.
because I'm
Okay.
really big on like. Okay, well, first off, everybody I play with doesn't have cameras,
Sure. Sure.
or they don't have like proper mics.
Yeah.
Um, one of my most consistent groups that I play with that I've considered streaming with. they're all the way in Australia, and it's like,
Yeah.
we might have connection issues.
Yeah.
But I've streamed for the last RPG day stream. We streamed a game of DCC,
Okay.
um, and
Dungeon
that was
Crawl
really
Classics. So
fun.
that's a game I don't have.
Yeah.
I've thought
Oh, you
about
should.
getting it, but then I have to get the special dice. You know, and Goodman
The
Games. So
dice
I've
shame.
got behind me. I've got their Keep on or Into the Borderlands and the Temple of Elemental Evil, the reissues or
The
whatever.
reincarnate.
Love those. Love those. I want to get more. Um, so I love the company. I actually interviewed for a job there a few years back, but love the company. Wish I would have got that job because that would have been cool. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I've got the starter book from Free RPG Day a few years back, like maybe 8 years ago, for it. The system looks fine. Sounds cool. I love hearing about what's it called? The funnel. Um, when you create characters, how they like can die before they
That's
even
what
get
I
to the table.
hate
I
hearing about. I hate the funnel.
I love that idea. I love the idea that you could just spend time on a character and it's just dead.
Well, okay, okay, I like the concept behind the funnel, but I think and this is probably going to be a whole nother video for me one day.
You need to do a video
But
on
like
this now that you're inspired.
now I do. Now I'm inspired. Thank you. But no, the fact that I think the community places too much like value on the funnel, like as
Yeah, it's
in
such a
there are too
small
many.
part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I mean the funnel works, right? Because it teaches you that character death is unavoidable, right?
Yep.
Like you will die, right?
Hmm.
Like it's just a matter of when,
It
right? As
sets the
long as you're
tone. Hmm.
it says that you're going to die. Will you go out in a cool or funny way? That's really what we're trying to figure out.
Right.
Um, and it also it's diegetic storytelling, right? So it's
Hmm.
like this is because a lot of times when the groups get together, they like the DM's like, all right, well, how do you guys know each other? In this, it's like, no, you're from the same village,
Hmm.
and the funnel adventure is how you know each other, and that's how you became what your class is,
Yeah.
right? Like that's how you became the fighter. That's how you became the thief. That's how you became the mage or whatever, or you found this forgotten god and pledged your soul to it, and that's how you became the warlock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's diegetic. You're playing through it. You're playing through your own origin story, and that
Yeah.
is cool. You know. Uh,
Yep.
but no, I just feel like because funnels they kind of harken back to because like they kind of harken back to like tournament modules in a way,
Hmm.
where there's an optimal way to do them in some of them, like some of them it's like, oh, how do you can get through some of them with minimal people. And like I know Goodman
Right.
Games, they do funnels all the time, like they'll have like the tournaments and little stuff
Yep.
and they'll sponsor them and shit. And yeah, I just think like there's more to it than that, like we got to go on to an actual campaign eventually, and like
Yeah.
I don't. It's fun for a start, but like I wouldn't want to like I don't know. I just don't find it fun to keep playing funnels over and
Oh,
over
for
again.
sure.
You know,
Yep.
that's my thing.
Well, it's kind of like when you play 5e with seasoned players, right? For a
Mhm.
long time, everyone was like, yeah, I still prefer to start at level 1, but I know groups that won't start before 3rd level now. Like, I've heard of
They
people that are
already know.
like, yeah, they're like,
Yeah,
I
they're
don't want to
they're
build up to the subclass choice. Like, I just want to start with what I am and play. Like, because they want to get right into the campaign, the meat of it. Makes sense.
exactly makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So,
So I was asking if you stream games because I was going to propose something for you. So
oh, a
I
proposal.
would happily play in one of your Marvel games as a player. We could stream it, but you would have to play in one of my Palladium Heroes Unlimited games. If you
Ooh.
wanted to give me a concept, I could whip up the character for you. Or if you wanted to create it like we could create it on a video and make
Well,
your character
well,
that way.
hey, hmm.
The only thing I would say is we have to find other people to play. I want 4
Man, that
players.
goes without saying.
Yep,
Four
yep.
players, okay. Fair
They
enough.
have to have cameras. They have to have microphones. But yes,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. I mean, since you don't stream, I'd be willing to host both games if you were cool with it. Or we could let Peter host one, or figure it all out with whoever else plays. But I think that would be a fun time. I would then whip up my little sheet for Heroes Unlimited that's like, here's my little Heroes Unlimited light for you. Basically I'll just take my Rifts one, get rid of some of the Rifts rules, and but yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'd have some fun. I'd have a little scenario and we could play through it. So if you're
Definitely, yeah.
interested, we could set that up for maybe like a few months from now. Like when it starts to get a little shitty weather, and it's like fall, might be perfect. Or maybe before then, depending on what's going on. But
Down here in North Florida, my weather's always great, man. Except during hurricane season.
I
Then
don't know.
we're
Florida
getting blown
sounds
away.
awful. So humid. I hate humidity.
Yeah, yeah, humidity sucks here. I'm not gonna
We
lie,
get a
man.
lot of
It.
humidity here in Michigan too, because the Great Lakes.
Oh yeah, true. Man,
Yeah.
I didn't think
Like
about
going to Arizona and it being like 110 degrees, no problem. Like we did that a few years back when my in-laws were down there, and I was like, this
it.
isn't bad. I could get used to this. Or Vegas. I've been to Vegas. The dry heat doesn't phase me. But like we
Really?
just had like 78 degrees, 90% humidity 3 days ago, and I was just dying. I'm like, this sucks.
It's the worst because you can't run from it. That's the whole thing. It
No,
doesn't matter whether you're in the shade.
right.
It's on you.
You have to be in an air conditioned room so that the air dries up. Like
Uh,
that's
Other
yeah.
than that, if you're just in it, and it's just like
Yeah.
it's
Didn't they
rough.
have
Yeah.
I feel like was it Texas? Somebody had like 100% humidity like last year. And I remember there
It's
were
insane.
videos of people squeegeeing their walls because the
It's insane.
condensation was so bad. I feel like it was Texas a couple
That's
years ago.
probably Texas. Texas has been having weird weather as of
Yeah.
late, right? Yeah, but yeah, man, that's
Hmm.
great. But I mean, for the most part, I think our weather's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, you
So
said northern Florida. Are
yeah,
you like close to Georgia or
yeah, like a skip and a hop from Georgia. Yeah,
okay.
like
Okay.
like kind of near what you call it, Jacksonville, that kind of
So
close to there.
honestly, I couldn't tell you. I think what Orlando's south or
That's
south
mid.
of Jacksonville,
The
right?
Orlando's more mid Florida. That's more
Okay.
mid.
What's South
And
Florida? Miami?
Miami,
Okay.
all of the big thing, Key
Tampa
West, all
Bay's
that is
west.
Tampa Bay is more west, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
but
My Florida
yeah,
geography sucks. It really does. Like trying to like if you said, "Here's the state of Florida," put a thumbtack
Well,
wherever this city is, and like I wouldn't be
it,
able to get close.
I mean, it's crazy how many people think that like Miami is like the capital of Florida, and it's not.
The
They'll say
capital?
Miami or yeah,
What
they'll
is
say
it,
Miami.
Tallahassee or something?
It's Tallahassee, definitely,
Okay.
but it's
Yeah.
I've heard people say like, oh yeah, that's just like what? That's like people who aren't from here, obviously.
Yeah. I haven't been to Florida
Yeah.
since I was a baby. I went there like once as a baby. And now so I
You
have
said never
family.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have
go
family in
Gaga.
North Carolina, like close to South Carolina. Well not close, like an hour from South Carolina. And so when I was a baby, we went down there, and then for some reason my parents went to Florida just to go to Florida, and then came back home to Michigan driving. I don't know. Um, but yeah, so that's the only time I've been to Florida. I'll probably never go back.
Yeah, well, you know, it's your loss.
I look, Michigan is home.
Oh no, I don't want to live. I wouldn't want to live anywhere where the power goes out in the winter and I have to worry about my survival. So
I don't think my power's ever gone out in the winter.
oh man,
The furnace has
I'm just
stopped
saying
working
like
in the winter before.
that's I'm just saying like any place where it gets cold enough in the winter that I could die outside without a jacket. I don't want.
Dude, here's what's
So
great. You know
most of
what?
the U.S. basically.
But no, hang on. So this is what's great. So you're worried about dying because of weather in the
Yeah.
cold. Here's the funny thing. If I stay in my house 365 days a year in Michigan, I will not die. You live in Florida where a hurricane could make the water come up from the ground and you can drown inside your house. Even if it's a 2-story house, you can still drown in that house.
But here's the thing though, like it's like the hurricane might not be that bad, right? Like it's just like it's always gonna be winter. Like when winter comes, it's always cold, bro.
No,
Like
it
you're
wasn't that
telling
bad this last winter. This past winter was
so
not
you're
bad
t-
at
so
all.
you're telling me
Global warming,
they
man.
don't hit the negatives. You're telling me they don't always hit the negatives where you are in Michigan.
I think we hit like the negatives like where I'm at, like 2 days this year.
I guess that's not too bad.
It wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
So West Michigan, which is where I'm at now, I'm an hour from the Great Lake to the west.
Yeah.
We get a lot of snow. So we
Yeah.
have what's called what the heck? Why can't I think of it? Lake effect snow. So lake effect snow means there's more humidity, so then you get more snow. So we can get a few feet of snow, but it's not like Buffalo, where when you see them on the news, the snow's above their head. It doesn't truly get like that where I'm at. It gets like to your waist, maybe once or twice a year. That's
Oh.
manageable, especially since most of our houses, not most, the houses I have the door, but you have something overhead for like 8 feet. So you don't get snowed in, right? Or you have sliding
Thank God.
doors as well. So you don't have to worry about snow blocking you in. I also have an attached garage that's attached to my house. So again, my car is fine in the winter. I can just drive right out and don't have to put snow off of it. That part sucks. I hate trying to get a foot of snow off of my car just so I can drive. That part sucks. Now, I'm originally from the east side of the state, about 30 minutes from Detroit, from Saline. Over there, you don't get a lot of snow, but you get a little bit of snow that turns to ice because of wind. It's harder to drive in that than it is in the big snow because you got to worry about black ice and slipping and going too fast in the weather. But if you drive at a reasonable speed, you don't have to worry about accidents. If you keep your distance from other cars, like follow at a good safe distance, you don't have to worry about accidents. And again, it's not that bad, like snow wise. The snow sucks. I'll
Bro,
give
we
you
had
that.
hail a few weeks ago, like just one random hailstorm,
Oh, for
and
sure.
like I thought it was the apocalypse. I
Yeah,
thought I grabbed my Bible. I said, "Well, it's up, guys."
right. Well, yeah, that's the crazy thing too. I'll hear you guys get like an inch of rain and the roads are slick. Like what? What do you mean it's
That's our
slick?
problems. That's our biggest problem.
You can't drive with when it's raining hard because it's
That's our
slippery?
biggest problem. That's why I love it. I love the weather. That's our biggest problem.
But there's like 10 car accidents when it rains in some places
That's
down south. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
that's average like Florida people not being able to drive. That's all that is,
But
bro.
it's like
That's all.
Texas, Arizona, like anywhere in those southern states, if it rains and the roads are wet, the cars slide. I don't know. Do they make the roads out of like oil? Like I don't understand why it's slippery from rain. That's not a thing here. Like if I'm driving and it's
No,
raining,
man.
I can drive the same speed as long as I can see. If my visibility sucks from the rain, okay. But like,
Yeah. No, man. That's a thing. It's a thing, bro. Just,
hey, if you
oh
say it
man.
is, I don't know. Can you drive in the rain or is it slippery for you too?
Man.
It
I'm
is.
just
What?
saying, sometimes I'm just like, you know what? Maybe I could just wait till
Really? It's oh man, no
really,
way.
dude.
No way.
Because on some of the more narrow roads, it's just like, you know.
The rain
But
makes it
we have a lot
slippery?
of hills in our town, so you know, it's
So
just
do
you
I.
know, it's
I have hills. I have hills that you have to look up
maybe
to get to the
maybe
top
I
of the hill
don't
on the road.
maybe this is a me thing though. Maybe I'm just not a confident enough driver. Maybe
No,
that
I
is.
think it's a southern thing, man. Look. The most confident drivers, I'm convinced, are New York, and New Jersey, New York City and New Jersey drivers.
Maybe
They
gotta
see
be.
a hole that's like 4 feet, and they're like, I can fit my big ass SUV between those two cars, and they like wedge in
Same.
there.
Have you ever seen like the videos of like those like semi truck drivers trying to like put like the way the as many like turns and like little
Yeah,
mine, it's crazy, man. I'm like, I couldn't. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I could never.
I love driving. It's like my favorite thing in the world, man. If I could get paid to just drive for like 8 hours a day, not like, so I did do taxi cab driving for a minute back in the day. I also delivered pizzas for a little bit. Loved
No.
doing those jobs, but they don't pay enough. Like, I'm talking like actually get
Well,
good pay without driving a big ass semi truck. I would do it.
wait, Juice, when you were driving the taxi, did you
Yep.
make sure to hit the ramps and play Offspring as loud as possible? Did you make sure to do that?
No,
You
no.
didn't do
So these were
you didn't
old.
do the crazy taxi?
No, so we had no, so
You
we
scared the money
had
out of
old police interceptors. They were Crown Vics for
them.
our cars. And these cars had like 300,000 miles. The seats in them, most of them were not comfortable. They might be broken. A spring might jab you in the rib. Like that part sucked. And so it wasn't like a normal taxi service. We actually did, um, it was for like retired individuals and people who had like medical disabilities, mentally ill or like physical handicaps. You were doing good stuff for the community, and it was a government program too. So it wasn't like, they had to pay. It was $3, or they'd have a ticket that they'd give you, and then we would turn that in at the end of the night. And if it was cash, we got to keep that, which was cool. But the tickets led to bonus money in our paycheck. So we got an hourly wage plus these were like bonuses, and
No, I think
it was cool, dude.
taxi driver would be a that's a cool well, what you call it, a cool secret, or not secret, but like civilian identity for a hero. I think it'd
Right
be. I don't think anybody's done that. I can't recall anybody who's done
now,
that
you
as a
can.
hero.
What are you gonna call
Oh,
him
you're
then?
the guy.
Right,
Yeah,
you gotta come up with a cool name
it's
for him
you.
though. And what would his
Oh man,
ability be? He's just good at
I don't
driving
know,
cars.
man.
Does his taxi cab
Oh,
morph into like a super vehicle?
so he could be like a more high tech hero, like a
He could be.
gadgeteer type.
He could be.
That might be kind of.
He has to drive like down an alley so that he can
Oh, you're giving
hide,
me
and
ideas.
then it can switch as he comes out the other side,
Oh, that's kind of
or
sick.
hits a one of those drive-through car washes, and then in the middle.
Oh, that's sick. I like that. Oh,
Or
you're
maybe
giving
he's
me
got a
ideas,
sidekick.
man.
Maybe he's got a sidekick with a semi that drops open
Oh,
the
he
back. He
drives it.
pulls up in, it closes, it does whatever it has to do, and then he pops right out as a superhero.
Which superhero do you think has like the lamest civilian identity? You had to say, like, just flat out, like, it's crap. Like, oh, he's got to
Superman.
sit
I
back for
mean, come
this one.
on, you got to say Superman all the time. Superman sucks.
He
It's
definitely has like the worst
glasses.
disguise. It's
It's
glasses.
yeah.
It's
And
glasses.
he's a writer all of a sudden. He goes from like super buff and super like Boy Scout jock type to all of a sudden a nerdy writer that does news. Like, what does he know about the news?
No, man.
I don't
I
know, because
mean, I
like
don't
not
know.
all superheroes have a civilian thing. So my favorite is
That's
Marvel
true.
and X-Men and stuff, right? So they don't really have like a regular identity, right?
Not really. But they're really my favorite Marvel group. If I
Daredevil's
gotta,
probably the best, I think. I think the lawyer thing works.
yeah, definitely,
He
definitely.
comes across as just a normal dude. Like there's no confusing the two, right?
Also, he is blind though. Like, but I
Hmm.
don't know. There's got to be like more people in Hell's Kitchen that are blind though. Like, it's like you
Yeah.
could, and plus Daredevil, he doesn't really give any indication, like based on his powers. I mean, he's blind, but he's not really blind. Like,
Right.
he can still
Yeah, he
he can
just
still
can't see
just
colors.
do shit. He just can't still, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not. I don't.
But
That's not really like
nobody
a good
knows
gift.
he's blind when he's the Daredevil.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody knows, so it's like
Yeah.
it wouldn't even be a good giveaway. Whereas Clark Kent, it's just glasses, and he's
Yes.
just walking around, and it's
Who do
just
you think's the
there's
most
no
lame?
the most lame. Oh, okay. Here's what I gotta say. All right, who's got the lamest? Um, Oh, I
I've never even thought of
guess
that question before now, so that's fine. That's
I
interesting.
didn't. I just thrown it out. I just threw it out for you, honestly.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Usually, I think of who has the best disguise. That's my whole thing. No, but the lamest. Not really. No, I should have been thinking while you were thinking.
See,
Oh, because I knew you were just pushing back on me.
it's got to come back.
Ah, who's got the worst?
I can't even think of all like the superheroes and their secret
Superman's
identities.
such an obvious one, right? Like
Right,
Superman's
and
the
then
go-to because
Batman's
he's
an
not.
obvious one. Daredevil's an obvious one. Spider-Man's basically Superman, but in Spider-Man form, he's
Mm,
completely covered, so it's fine.
that's what I'm saying. Like with their costumes, where they're completely covered.
And he's a freelancer, but
Um,
he's also a kid chemist.
yeah, and plus you got the other Spider-Mans too, and some of them are
Hmm.
more well, like oh, I'm pretending to be Peter. Crap. Dang, man. I don't know. You picked the best one because Superman's literally the lamest one.
He's also easy to pick
Uh,
on. All right,
he's
who's your
easy to pick.
favorite
He's
superhero?
easy. Favorite. Oh, dude. Okay, now this part of this is nostalgia. All right.
Okay.
Uh, but favorite superhero, it's got to be Cable. Um, and I don't know if I've talked about this before on my channel or anywhere else, but Cable, I like his design. Like I know people
He
like to
looks cool
give
as hell.
life. He looks cool, and I know people love to give Liefeld shit. Like, oh, he can't draw, yada yada. That is one of the
Because he's
coolest
like got
characters.
muscles on top of muscles? Is that why you mean? Muscles where you don't
Right.
actually have muscles?
Of course, yeah, of course,
But it
whatever.
looks
But I'm
cool.
not gonna shit on him. He's way more famous and successful than I'll ever be.
Yeah.
Whatever. But like
With
Cable's
that
design,
mindset,
his
yes, he is and will
the
be more successful.
the eye, the mecha arm,
Yeah.
the fact that he uses guns, I always thought that was like because in the time when I watched him, like he was the only one of like the X-Men and or like the X adjacent guys because
X
there's
Force.
X-Force,
Hmm.
there's Clover. He was the only one who was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna use a plasma gun. Like,
You totally had the
I'm,
action figure where the right arm only went halfway up,
I,
and then the other one's like an
I,
open hand smack. You had that, didn't you?
I No, I didn't, but I had the trade I had like the trade the old Marvel trading cards, the ones that had like the little
Yes.
power levels on. I
Yep.
had I had a
Yeah,
long
those are
since
awesome.
lost. They were awesome. I would have kept them. Well, they were kind of like my dad's. But anyways, but Cable, he's got the whole fun time travel aspect attached to him too, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of mysterious.
I
He
got
uses
superhero cards.
guns. Yeah.
So Archangel. I love this one.
Ah, sick. That's him after he what you call it? Joined Apocalypse and got the
Yup.
metal
The
wing.
Horseman of the Apocalypse. Yep. US
Yeah.
agent. So I only have a few. I used to have a bunch when I was a kid. These are just the ones I still have. Captain America.
The
That
Rob
one has some
Liefeld one.
powers on the back. Punisher, which
Sick.
also has
No,
some
no,
powers on
actually,
the back.
that one I actually remember. That one very clear. I definitely had that Punisher one.
I have this Storm, which also is kind of shiny, which is awesome. And then also, they always put the powers on the back, like the not powers, but like they grade their abilities, like strength and whatever. They always did
It
that.
it never. It was always like never really
Accurate.
adequate because it was like 1 to 5 or something. It was like,
Yeah, or 1 to 10. Like I
what does
had a
that even
Galactus
mean?
card when I was a kid, and I was like, "Whoa, his stats are through the roof." This is before I knew that he was like a world eater. I was like, "This is a
Yeah.
cool card. He's the most powerful mutant." Like not knowing squat,
Yeah.
because I had like at that time. So I'm going to say it now. I as much as I'm into superheroes, I
Mhm.
rarely, if ever, read comic books. The only
Oh yeah, I'm
ones I
sorry.
read a bit was Age of Apocalypse. I loved that
Mhm.
series.
That's fine.
And that in the
And
90s,
dark.
I was the only person that liked it. I felt like nobody liked it. I had all the action figures. I had the Apocalypse that you can pop his hands off. One was like a drill. I had the Wolverine where you take his hand off and it's like a gun. Like I had all the action figures, dude. Loved them.
Awesome.
So all my perception was based on art, when I did get comic books, but I didn't read them. I just look at the pictures and cut them out. I used to make I used to be into color forms when I was really little, so I used to cut my comic books out and use the characters like as toys that were paper, which sucks
Nice,
because you
man.
cut them out on one side, the other side's ruined,
The
and so you
other
have to
side's
like
screwed.
yeah, so you had to decide what was better, um, and yeah. But anyways, uh, and then the cartoon, right? The X-Men, Spider-Man, like all the cartoons were how I judged characters. But yeah, I never really got into reading comic books. I wish I did. Um,
See, with me, it
and
was
then I had the
like
cards.
I I kind of got started on like some of the X-Men, X-Force stuff. You know,
Yep.
reading my dad's comics and like some of his old Conan books that I wasn't supposed to be reading.
Yep. Or X
Um,
Factor was another that I had
it's
a
fact,
bunch of those.
yeah.
Yep.
But later on, when I like really started getting into stuff, I would try to read like the big mashups, right? Like
Yep.
it's like, Ragnarok, Final Crisis, Age of Apocalypse, Cable versus Deadpool, and
Mm-hmm.
all of those little like mashups, or like they like read arcs instead of
Yep.
trying, because like after a while, like you can tell people don't like the new writers don't read the old stuff, and you start to
Yeah.
see like really big
Or they
inconsistencies.
literally just try to take it a whole different direction completely for some
Yeah, or
reason.
yeah, they just
Yep.
and yeah, and then the character, it might as well be a different character at that point, right?
Yep.
And you're like, oh, this arc doesn't make sense because there's no build up to the change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and that happened when I was reading Cable. Honestly, like it was just like there was a point where I was just like, wait a minute, you don't like okay, they were pretty much, it was one issue, and they were talking. There was a time traveling enemy, right? And he was traveling the time and yada yada. And there were these like time police that were fighting him. And they
Okay.
pretty much sat down Cable and they were like, hey dude, um, like you're making more timelines and like you're messing up other timelines with your shenanigans, like you trying to save the future, which you've always been trying to do. And it's like at some point, like what are you gonna do, bro? Like, but
Yeah.
then that still becomes like later. It's like a dead arc because he learns this and like he kind of accepts it, sort of. But then like later on, he goes on to do the same thing where he's protecting Hope, right? And he's like, I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
save Mutant Kind. He's fighting with Bishop, and it's like, bro, like, don't you understand? You're never going to change your future. Like your timeline's always going to exist. And I mean,
Yeah.
canonically, we know that's how Marvel works, right? Like
Yep.
we have the different timelines. You got 616 and you got 818 and you got all the other ones, and that's just how the timelines work. That's just how it works.
Right.
So yeah, it's just like when you see things like that where like if someone that was writing that one would have just simply did the research and been like, okay, this doesn't make sense for his character really, or this doesn't make sense as a concept because of how the whole multiverse works, then
Right.
like they would have been like, all right, well, let's do something else. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I feel like with the big things, like you can read them because it's just like when you're a kid, when you just get all your action figures and just toss, and you just start having or you get the
Yes.
wrestling figures and you're just like, all right, Gold Dust versus Undertaker, let's go.
Right. And somehow Gold Dust wins. What? He's got the belt now.
Oh,
No.
wait, Eddie Guerrero jumped in, and now they're all fighting, and
See, that's the
and
other
it's
thing. I
one
had a
big
bunch of wrestling
disaster.
figures too, man. Love it. Love the fantasy book wrestling. That's my favorite.
But yeah, but that's what I do like about like the big ones. So I usually
Yeah.
just keep up with those where I'm like, all right, I'm reading Secret Wars and the
Yep.
new one, and then I'll let it sit for a while and be like, all right, is there another big one coming out? Oh, okay, cool. Extinction event, cool. I'll read it. Yeah.
Do you
So
collect all the books or do you get like the subscription service to read them?
well,
Uh-oh.
I I find most of them online, from
Okay.
very trustworthy sources.
Sure, sure. Hey, there's people who do like content on YouTube talking about it too. Kind of
Yeah.
give you little glimpses into the art and stuff. So I've on certain stories I've went and seen like different videos just to get into the know, or I've read the
Hmm.
Wikipedias or things like that because I like to know things,
Yeah.
or I listen to people who know a hell of a lot more about the fandom talk about it, like so I didn't know well, I don't want to say anything too much. I didn't know Cable's full backstory until fairly recently, thanks to the
It's
cartoon.
wild, bro.
Yeah,
It's wild, bro.
yeah, I didn't realize their parents or, like a lot of different
Yeah.
things. I knew they had a son. I know Cable's got a son because the original series, right? That where he's with his son climbing the mountain to get to Apocalypse's like sleeping site or
Yeah.
whatever. I remember
Uh-huh.
that. Because I used to think he was just trying to make the future better for his son. That was what I thought it was all about, and I didn't really understand. I don't know
Yeah,
when.
at
Okay.
first it was that a little bit. They kind of, because there's a point, because he's
When did they
basically
write
like,
who his parents were? Because he was a character before they wrote who his parents were.
yeah, so he was kind of just like a militant, like, dude who was training X-Force, right?
Yep.
And then later, I think it was when Executioner Song came out, I think, he ended up battling Strife, and they learned who Strife was, and Strife's like, "Oh, I'm a clone of you."
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then
there's always
I
some weird
think
twist.
yeah, but I think that around that time, I think that's when they kind of came out and had the
Oops.
whole giving their son, because they gave baby Cable to
Yep.
the how was it, the future, it was one future tribe in the future, but yeah, they definitely didn't plan it out, dude. There's no way
Yeah.
they planned it out. They were just
And
like,
that's what happens. They change characters at some point to have a twist or a spin that then goes,
yeah,
oh, but that doesn't really make sense with that. But if you can
it
like
didn't.
forget about that, then you're like, okay, this is it. Oh, okay. And then they start connecting why that was the way and stuff like that. But
It never really truly made sense.
I didn't even
Like,
know what his abilities were before. I had no idea. I
well,
knew
yeah,
he had like the cube thing. I didn't know he
he's
was a
the most
psychic.
powerful telekinetic. He's not the most powerful psychic, but he's the most powerful telekinetic. He's stronger
Okay.
than Jean Grey. Like,
Yeah.
but it's just they gave him I guess when the DM was making his character, it was like, oh, well, yeah, you can't be more powerful, so
Right.
you have a disease that limits you, and that's where you have to
Right.
use 90% of your power. So you could just use guns mostly.
Right.
Because yeah, it's just a crappy, like, oh, because yeah, when he
Yeah.
gets rid of the arm, there's a in Cable and Deadpool, he
Mhm.
actually gets rid of his techno organic virus thing, and
Mm.
he ends up he basically goes like full, like, hey, all right, guys, um I'm starting this cool nation, and you guys can be part of it if you want. Don't ever enter. He puts like a shield over it, and he's like, hey,
Mhm.
and also, by the way, you guys stop fighting and get rid of your nukes and all this. He does the typical that,
Yeah.
and then yeah, they jump him basically, and I was like, dang, man.
I
They
used
actually, no, Reed Richards had to call in Silver Surfer to even have a
mm,
chance like beating him. Everyone else was basically just like running, like doing scrimmage. Like
yeah.
they were just like, all right, we're gonna distract you a little bit. And Silver Surfer had to like really come down and put the hammer on him. And like he was the only, everyone else couldn't touch him. They
Yeah.
just could not touch him.
See, I grew
So
up thinking he was just a guy from the future who had cybernetic implants. That's what I grew up thinking Cable was. I didn't know.
that's cool enough at the end of the day.
I mean, I always thought he was badass. I had a couple of his action figures. I had the blue and yellow one where his face popped off, half of his face.
Yeah.
I also had the one I was telling you about where his right hand, I think it was, yeah, his right hand barely went up because I held a gun, and then the other one was
Yep.
the metal slap hand, as I call it. And I used to use him with my wrestlers because he was so muscular, even though he was shorter. I was like, he could whoop all the
Mm-hmm.
wrestlers, and like I used to play with that. But then I used him with my X-Men, and he'd block like the beams with his cybernetic arm, and like I remember how I used to play with him. Like I loved it. It was great. I loved Cable.
Definitely definitely like a cool concept, like the whole soldier from the future.
Yeah.
And also there's a lot of funny awkward moments where, like, he's basically talking to Cyclops, like he's like, hey man, why don't y'all get y'all shit together? And Cyclops is like, bro, you're my son.
Right.
But you're talking like you're
Talking down to
literally
me.
like 50. You're
Yeah.
50 and you're grizzled and you're chewing on a cigar
And I'm like
and you're talking
35.
down to me. And I'm and it's just like you've seen atrocities that I haven't, and it's just like
Hmm.
it's just so weird. And there's a lot of like weird moments where it's just like, all right, I
Yep.
guess I'll give you a hug. Like
Yep. That was even weird
it's
how they
very
did it in the
funny.
cartoon, this season where I was like, what? Like I don't
Yeah,
know. I saw people online saying that the one scene in the diner or whatever made them cry. And I'm like, I didn't get emotional at all.
I
Like,
don't know. I
and
haven't
I'll
gotten that
cry
far,
during a movie. I will cry. But that didn't do it for me. They didn't give you I think it needed more episodes to hook me with any real emotion. But I loved it.
man.
This season was so good.
Are they going to do another season? Because
Yeah,
like I'm.
they've already agreed, I think, to 3 or 4.
Oh my
So originally it was
gosh.
just one, and after like a couple weeks, it was well received, and yep,
It's a good time to be an X-Men fan, people. It's a
they've
good
already
time.
got the action figures for this season out. There's the Magneto that's from the first half of the season is up at my local Meijer. I'm like, ooh, that's
Nice, man.
cool. I know. I want to buy it, but I'm an adult. I don't need toys. I have stuff like I've got wrestling figures up in here and stuff. I'm like on my shelves. I'm like, man,
Oh,
I could
you
put
don't need
Magneto
toys,
somewhere.
huh? You don't need games, huh?
I
Yeah.
have a huge 5x5 IKEA bookshelf covered with games. I do always need more
Uh,
games, even though I hate reading them.
always.
I hate reading gaming books. Like I hate learning a new system. I really do.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just want to know how to play it magically. I just want to be like, all right, yeah, I own it. I know how to play this now. But you got to
Like
spend
what?
time reading.
Sometimes I'll skim a system, or like if I already know. Usually, no, because I buy more supplements for existing games that I have than I do
Yep.
like full on like new games.
Yep.
Unless it's just like one off like zine games, where it's like just a
Sure.
little.
It's like 4
Yeah,
pages. Whatever.
yeah, it's like yeah, that's not for me to read. But like for the bigger games, it's like I'll skim them a bit and I'll
Hmm.
see if I can see any similarities with other games that I already
Yeah.
have. Where it's like, all right, this is use dice pools, this is D6s, does this use D100s, yada yada yada. And
Yep.
then if I figure that out, I'll be like, all right, I'll put it down for a while.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, okay, well, when I get ready to run a campaign, then I'll pick it up and like read it for real, for real.
Yeah.
So, but most of the time I don't.
Yep. So
It's a lot.
I do the lazy way. I like I'll buy the game. So usually I don't buy a game unless I know what I'm getting into a little bit, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But like I'll buy a game without knowing the rule system, like this. I knew I wanted this, right?
Of course.
It's Marvel and it's badass. So I bought it. Um and so then if I think I can find a group to play it with, I will watch a review of the game system. I will look up some YouTube video and watch
Yeah.
as someone explains it. And then I get a better idea of how it works. And then I might then watch a little bit of a live play. So that's kind of my
Yeah.
sequence. Boom, boom, boom. And then based on that, I will look up certain things like, well, does it have rules for grappling, or does it, so then I'll look for some specific things that I think would come up. So in a superhero game, I kind of expect grappling to come up at some point. I
Absolutely.
can totally see
Got to.
people trying to grapple. um that's why it's funny that I don't know the rules for Heroes Unlimited. I just make it up. I'm sure there's rules. I know there's an entangle action that you have to,
Mm.
I think you actually have to have a certain fighting style to be able to do it. Otherwise I don't think you can do it. And there's a ton of fighting styles in the game, and a lot of them are kind of arbitrary. Like the differences are just like, why'd you decide
Yeah,
this
like
over
between
that?
judo and karate, and it's like, oh,
Yeah,
it's a
or
plus two
Choi
to this.
Kwando compared to Taekwondo, and but then but this one at level 1 will give you a +1 to parry, and that one will give you a +1 to dodge. Why did you choose that?
See, I like how they do martial arts in MSH. So
Hmm.
instead of naming the individual martial arts,
You
right,
just say
and
martial arts.
having 500 different martial arts, because that's how many martial arts there are in the world.
That's why they have ninjas
They
and
just
super spies over here, though, because it gives you gives you like 60 different fighting styles.
But no, in this, instead of detailing each fighting style, it just says like what they do, like what they do.
Yeah.
So there's five, right? So it's martial arts A through E, and they each do different things. So like martial arts A lets you stun people, right, regardless of their strength or endurance. So
Hmm.
like you could stun somebody like even if they have more like it will represent like judo or those other things where it's more about like shifting other people's weight and like using their own force against them instead
Yeah.
of saying, "Oh, this is the judo talent." Because then you get nerds that come out the woodwork and well, actually, and then well, judo and Muay Thai are super different, and they do
Yeah.
this, and or then you get like martial arts B, and gives them a +1 to their fighting shift when they're in unarmed combat. So that could
Hmm.
be a bunch of things, right? That could be
Yeah.
boxing, that could be that could be karate, Jikundo, like it could be a bunch of different things, but it's just like,
Yeah.
what does it do mechanically? Because really, ultimately, at the end of the day, that's all the player cares about, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is it doing for my character? Like,
Hmm.
what bonus is it giving me?
And
We
almost
can flavor it however we want.
I almost feel like you could just have a basic tag that says, like, if you think of Pathfinder, for example, do you have Pathfinder Second Edition, or have you seen it?
I've played in a game of it. Yeah.
Okay, so in the new Pathfinder game, there's tags associated with different things.
Yeah.
So when you're choosing feats, for example,
Mhm.
I feel like you could have like a hand-to-hand style or whatever you want to call it, fighting style. It could just be martial arts. And martial
Yeah.
arts is the tag that can give you access to different feats or different options.
Ah,
Those options could be a judo throw, an eye gouge, or like all sorts of different things that could do different stuff. So you have one
yeah.
blanket thing, but then all these others that you could choose under it. Like that would be
That's
kind of
super
cool.
pretty dope.
You know,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
I like I like the I like a lot of options in my games when it comes to crafting characters. But I like
Yeah.
the options to have meaning or be able to do different things mechanically.
Hmm.
Choosing skills for this is pointless because the options in that are minimal. Most skills you're never going to use, and it bothers me how it's set up. The skills should be
Yeah.
simplified, but I like
The accounting
choosing
skill is
things.
never going to come up. Accounting's
It
not
could.
coming up.
It could. When you're budgeting for your vehicle that you have to build. I don't know. But again,
Yeah,
that's like
but
a yeah, it's a minor
yeah,
thing. Or what do you actually need chemistry for? Or like then there's also biology and then like nature and physics. Like it goes way too deep with the skills. You could just
yeah,
have a general science skill. You could have, I don't need basic and advanced mathematics. Like,
yeah,
why, if I have advanced, why would I ever need basic? Like,
exactly.
there's just some things that I go, what? Why? I don't want that. Don't care. Or
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, great stuff in here. I love it. I do love creating superhero characters, everything but the skills. It's so
Mm,
rich. Like when you create your character, you can determine like where do their powers come from. If they're an
true.
experiment, was it a government agency? Was it a volunteer organization? Was it a radioactive spider that bit them? Like it doesn't say radioactive spider, but you know what I'm saying. Like, was it an
Anyway,
accident?
bug.
Yeah, was it an accident? Was it intentional? Was it a organization that paid for it? Was it against their will? Whatever. And then you can flesh out these like thematic stories around the organization. Like it's so good at coming up with like a backstory for your character in some of the random roles that you can do or some of the choices because I like to give my players a choice too. Like I love if you like I want a character who can fly, or no, I want a character who can jump really high like a grasshopper but also has razor sharp claws. Great, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like we had when I ran for my sister, her husband, and my wife, the
Mm,
characters were cool as hell. My sister wanted to be a reporter, teen girl, who had the ragdoll feature, which basically
yeah.
meant she turned into like a Raggedy Ann, like ultra physical structure Raggedy Ann. So, like in other words, she had like pockets in her skin, and like she could literally stab herself and it wouldn't hurt, and she could like hide weapons inside of her because she's a stuffed animal. So there were some
Oh,
cool little things with it. My wife made a character that was inspired by Magneto, magnetism, could fly.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and so like her character's name was Iron Maiden. And so she had these long
Oh, that's
long
sick.
chains that had like sharp daggers at the end. And so she had four of them. And I envisioned it like Doc Ock a little bit, but she's controlling it without technology, but with her magnetism. And so she's like, psh, psh, psh. We had actually worked together to make this character actually a bad character. We just never got to the point where they turned on the party. And then as soon as it turned on the party, she was going to play the other character she actually wanted to play, who was a shape changer, that she was really excited about. But my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, he had the super jump. That's why I just thought of it. He also had like this lycanthropy
No.
thing, so he could like turn into like I think it was just a monster. It wasn't necessarily a werewolf, and he could do it at will. So it wasn't by the moon or anything. And he had something else, but he was able to jump over like 40-foot buildings and shit, and like just crazy stuff there. Super cool. I love the character creation aspect other than the skills. I don't care about their education levels, and I don't care about skills. Everything else I love about creating character. And I've made folders of characters like for that game. Like I tested the limits
Nice.
of how strong can I make a character? How
Mhm.
fast can I make a character? And like all these things. And the aspect of it that also gets kind of tricky with it is they have a setting called Century Station, which is their superhero city. It's like a futuristic city. And there's like superhero like Avengers teams in this city and stuff. And those characters are not made by the book. Like you could tell they supersede
Yeah, they
like
added
yeah, it's
some
like someone just
points for.
chose a number and like here he's
Yeah.
this strong or this and whatever. Which it's like okay, whatever. And people will complain that this game is not meant for making characters as strong as the Hulk or, as fast as, Quicksilver or whatever. Like they compare it to actual characters and they go, well, this is for street level. And it's like, well, no, you can do those things. If I knew a player wanted to make a character as strong as the Hulk or Superman, then I would,
Mhm.
GM Fiat and say, all right, yes, you can pick up that semi. Like, I'm not going to say, well, technically your strength isn't strong enough to lift up that semi. I'm going to let them do the cool shit, right? That's what they want to do. That's when you
There you
make a
go.
character as strong as possible, you want them to lift a building out of its foundation. Like,
Oh, I mean, really, yeah.
so why not? Just let them. Like, I get it, but it's supposed to be fun, and this isn't supposed to be realistic. No comic book game should be realistic.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you hate about this game? Because
Gotta be
the other day you said you had some strong
because,
opinions.
man. Okay, let's talk about how character death is handled in that. Hmm?
Okay, what about it?
Well,
The SDC compared to hit points?
I'm just saying, like, you still have the same Palladium issue, right? Where
Okay,
that you can get hit with something that's just like boom, and you're just out. Like, and that's it. Like it's not it's still lethal. It still
it
can
can
be
be.
as lethal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so
And
for example, for people watching that don't know. So in Palladium there's three tiers. There's MDC if you're playing riffs, there's SDC, and then there's hit points. The way I explain this to people is your hit points are like your critical wounds, right? You're like you are dying if you take hit point damage. Like it is serious. Um,
yeah.
SDC, I like to think of it more as pain threshold. So like if you get punched a bunch, you shouldn't technically die from it, but you do kind of get to a point where it softens up and eventually it's just bleh, you know. And so then
Still
it's hit point
damage capacity.
damage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's MDC. I think of MDC as armor, like tanks. If you're wearing plate mail, like obviously that's not actually how that works, but I just think of it as like armor over your body. Your body is SDC, and then hit points are like critical arteries and things like that. So
Mhm.
if you have like the boxing. I think there's certain hand-to-hand styles. Then certain hand-to-hand attacks can deal damage straight to hit points. Like there's a death blow, for example. The death blow requires a certain roll. I think they have to roll a 20. And if they roll a 20, then it's like you're basically dead. Like no way around it. It just somehow they hit you in the right spot and you're dead. Rarely have I seen that happen in games. In fact, I don't think I've ever actually seen that happen. Another example would be like stabbing somebody with a knife or shooting someone with a gun. If you do that, you do damage to the hit points and the SDC. But you get shot, you can die. Now, I can't remember offhand if it was half damage to one and half to the other, or if it was full damage. I can't remember. And I don't remember how I ruled it, because it's been a little bit since I've run the game. But that's kind of the gist of it, right? Like you get shot. Now, if it's a regular gun. If you're playing with MDC, a regular gun does not pierce MDC damage. So if I have a pistol and I'm shooting a tank, it will never do a single point of damage to the tank, which personally I don't like, but that is what it is. Because I would think if you shoot something enough times in the same spot, eventually it might break through. Maybe. Yeah. Or if I take my dagger and I literally try to cut the rubber hose, even though it's an MDC vehicle, it should cut the rubber hose. Right.
I used to play this old NES game called Iron Tank, and I used to hate the fact that like the German soldiers, they would come and fire at your tank, and I was like, no, but I'm in a tank. Why are they hurting my health bar? So
well, so that's yeah. Like I get it. I could see that being frustrating if you're in the tank or in the glitter boy armor or have the power armor or whatever, but at the same time, like if you are standing there without MDC armor and these MDC creatures, so any magical creature in Rifts does MDC damage. So say it has sharp claws and he pokes you with his claw, just a little poke. You take 1 MDC damage, and you are not an MDC armored creature, and you're just SDC. That killed you. Dead. That doesn't make sense. Now, Savage Rifts fixes this whole thing. So this gets us into Savage Worlds, and I wanted to come back to this for a reason. But Savage Rifts, I backed the first Kickstarter when Sean Patrick Fannin made it. I had played some Savage Worlds stuff before that. Guy who lives in my town, a good friend of mine, his name's Brett. He's friends with Sean Patrick Fannin. He did a lot with Shinetar, like he did some playtesting stuff, back that Kickstarter. I got to play some Shinetar stuff. Shinetar was kind of cool. I like some of the races in it. In fact, I played a lizard creature who they have like special double-headed like weapons, like I don't know what the heck they're called.
You played one of the lizard guys from Star Trek, right? The things that Kirk fought.
No, so it's I don't know, but yeah. So I used that. It was super cool. All like the different edges that were associated with it. Loved it. I imagine this almost like a martial artist who could use his tail to do cool shit and had a double-headed staff with like blades on both sides. Right? Think like Darth Maul kind of.
Nice.
Anyways, loved the character. Had fun, but the system definitely ruined parts of it for me for Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
So played Shinetar for a bit. We did the Super's Companion for some stuff. Played some like a different campaign. I think I played like 1 or 2 sessions with that. I had bought the Savage Worlds Fantasy Companion, the Sci-Fi Companion, some other stuff. I've got bennies. I've got decks of cards, all sorts of stuff. I got Savage Rifts, got the whole box set, spent like $300 on that. Played that at a convention with Sean Patrick Fannin running it, and played that with my friend Brett playing it at Gen Con. And so I've played a bunch of Savage Worlds. I've probably played like 25 sessions of Savage Worlds, different versions.
So you know for a fact you don't like it.
I know for a fact. The thing that sucks is there's a lot of stuff I love about it, and a lot of things that I think if they were handled slightly different, I would really enjoy the system. right off the bat, I hate using a deck of cards for initiative. Hate it.
Oh
If
yeah,
you want a
absolutely.
mechanic tied to it, if you roll a nat 20, you get the +2 bonus on a d20. That's the way to get around the Joker thing, right? I
Yeah.
understand it's for Deadlands, and that's how Savage Worlds got started. Also, back to the Rifts thing real quick. The thing that they fixed. So they have, when you shoot something, it does whatever damage it does, but they have like armor piercing type stuff. That will then get past MDC. I think there's like a specific thing it's called, like MDC damage. So then those things that do MDC damage, they hurt MDC vehicles for the same damage. If you hit something that's not an MDC for the same damage with an MDC weapon, it just does normal damage. So it's just a
Mm,
qualifier if it's MDC. Does that make sense? So like you
makes
can,
sense. Yeah.
with MDC, you can hit everything. If you don't have an MDC weapon, you can't hit the MDC thing, like, or you can't damage it, but you can, you know what I mean? But it's not like this thing where one MDC damage kills you. So I like that. And I think that should be ported over to the regular Rift setting. Or in general, just Palladium in general. I would love them to make a new, simpler version. So I like that. I also like there's still some balance issues, but they brought it a lot closer together, right? In
Hmm.
original Rifts, you've got Glitter Boys. That's the easy example because you have power armor that's like tons of MDC damage that it can take.
They get a Gundam, you know. It's
Yeah.
like
Then you have, like I said earlier, a vagabond or like a normal person with a gun.
yeah,
Obviously, not on the same playing field. In that game, they're closer though, where you could take out a glitter boy as a normal person.
yeah.
There are some drawbacks to being a glitter boy, but a glitter boy also can take you out, and they're obviously restricted by where they can go in the glitter boy armor. Like going underground is hard, and but there's some cool stuff around it, and I think it makes it a little more level. Still using the boom gun is pretty OP and does a lot of damage, but that's expected. But yeah, I like that they
So much.
fixed the MDC aspect though with Savage Rifts. I liked that. So now my issue with Savage
Mhm.
Worlds. There's a few.
Yeah.
Deck of
Okay.
cards for initiative, get rid of it. I don't need a deck of cards at my table. I don't want a deck of cards. I
So,
like the deck of cards that give you boons that they usually are like advised to give one out at the start of a session if you have these decks of cards. You can play it, it can have a narrative thing, a mechanical thing, or you play it at a certain time and it does something. Those cards are cool. I don't have any of those decks. Um I hate how when you're rolling dice as a
yeah.
player character, you have a wild die and whatever your other roll is, and you have to keep track of them separately to see if you hit because dice explode. I hate
No.
that. I don't want that. It just slows things down. I hate how the wounds work. Once I hit something, it suffers a wound that you can use bennies to soak and screw with the actual effects of things because of bennies. The
Metacurse.
bennies, that bothers me a little. I'm not as worried about the bennies, but they're used quite a bit, I feel like. And yeah. But the wounds, because it makes you -1 on all your rolls,
Hmm.
can make it, especially if both sides have been damaged, can make combats just incredibly long and drawn out from my
Mm,
experiences. I've had that happen a lot as a player and with different people running the game to the point where I'm like, I missed again. I missed again. My character's supposed to be good at shooting things. I missed again. I missed again. Dumb, 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 dumb,
mhm.
dumb. All because I didn't get to go first and I got hit once and whatever, or
Yeah.
twice, because I think it's the third one's death, if I remember right. It's like -1,
Mhm.
-2, and then death, or I don't know, something. I don't remember exactly. Um, so that bothers me how slow things can be. There was a mechanic meant for juicers in the Savage Rifts game, which is called like Blaze of Glory, which
Mhm.
basically meant if you died as a player, you can decide to go out in a blaze of glory and do
So
some
hyped up.
really, yeah, you can
Yeah.
like run up jump off the skyscraper, shooting at the helicopter, throw a grenade at the tank on the ground, blow that up. The helicopter crashes into another tank. Like, you can just basically get complete narrative control for like 30 seconds of what's happening. And
Yeah.
that was cool as hell. how it was kind of implemented, and it allows you to kind of go. The game master can obviously say no, that's too much, but we were allowed to do some crazy shit. Like
Mhm.
I burned down a forest as my blaze of glory in one of my con games. I was like, yeah, I run up there. I'm on fire because I just got shot and blown up. I'm on fire. I run out there. Luckily, my grenades haven't gone off. I pull the pins, blow up as I'm running at the bad guy. The forest catches on
So,
fire. Like, yeah, it was great.
so you went full Halo grunt. It's like,
Yeah, like I'm dead. Pins dropped. Boom, done. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I've had fun with it. It's just like maybe I have ADHD. I don't know. If it's too slow, I get bored. And the Savage World system has always been told to me, or I'm sitting at a table with a new person. I've played like 10
yeah,
sessions, and they're like, "So tell me about the system before we play." Well, it's super fast, and I'm just like, "No, it's not." Like I just have to bite my tongue. I'm like, "It's not fast. It's not quick. Like it does not. No, no. It should be, but it's
so what
not."
I'm getting from this Juice is that you'll never run a Supers game or play a Supers game in Savage World.
No. I would so okay. I would give the
I know they have a
system.
Supers compendium, right?
I have the Supers Companion, the old one, not the new one, because they've done new ones now since they've redid the system. Um,
Okay.
I would try to play it again with a different game master in hopes that maybe they run it slightly different than the three other
Yeah.
people I've played with. I just don't have high hopes that it would be run better. Like, and it's not
Mm.
run better; it's that it would feel quicker.
Yeah,
I feel
running a
like
way
it's
that
slower.
flows more. Yeah.
Yeah, like I want if it's my turn, I say I do this, I roll, boom, boom, boom. I tell you what I did, and it's like I can narrate it and it's done. Like boom, real quick. Next
Yeah.
person rolls, I do da 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 da, they do the roll, boom, done. Again, it shouldn't take more than like 10 seconds to resolve your turn, in my opinion, for the perfect game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Absolutely.
I feel like Savage Worlds is actually slower than D&D 5e. That's how I feel.
Really?
Unless you get into higher levels where people got multi-attack. Like spell casting takes a minute too, because you got to figure out, okay, what spell do I want to
Yeah.
cast? No matter what, that's going to take time. But like
Absolutely.
a grunt in this game and a grunt in that game, just running up and hitting something, what takes longer? Exploding dice takes longer than rolling my d20 and my d8 at the same time. Like right
Yeah.
away, boom, I know I hit. With that one, oh, my wild die got a 6. Okay, that's a raise of 1. Oh, my skill of a D8, I got a 6, so that's still a 6, but doesn't explode. Okay, got to roll the wild die again. And I think it's increments of 4 as a
Yeah.
success or whatever. Isn't that what it is?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, that takes longer, no matter how simple the action is.
Instead of just D20 plus 2, do I hit this static number that I know I have to hit
Yeah,
every single freaking turn?
yeah. And after one turn, you know what you have to beat. For some reason
Mm-hmm.
in Savage Worlds, because I'm so preoccupied thinking, okay, I've got 3 raises or whatever they're called. I think it's raises or that. Yeah, I know I
Yeah.
got 3 raises. Okay, does that hit? Yes. Like I don't know how many I have to get to hit this thing. I just know in this turn I had 3.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I got
which
3 and
would
I
have
hit.
been 12. I had a 12 total. But again,
Yeah.
it's in
That's.
increments of 4, like not an actual number. Am I wrong? Like you play Savage Worlds, right?
You're not wrong, dude. You're not wrong. I'm just thinking because like yeah, everybody does kind of say like, oh, Savage Worlds is a bit easier, to
And then if
wrap
you're
your head
spending
around.
bennies for an extra raise,
Anytime, but that's like anytime you introduce any kind of like meta currency into a game where it's like, all right, we
it
gotta
slows it down.
like, because I would say even the same thing happens with like Fate,
Okay.
like where you have to Fate points and stuff.
Yep.
Even though I say I would think that is Fate's Fate's actually a great system for running super games as well. I
Yeah, because
kind
it's
of
more narrative.
yeah, it's way more
Hmm.
narrative, and it's just all right. Your aspect is like I am the strong man from another world, and you write that as your aspect, and
Yeah.
it's the aspect is true. But yeah, but when it comes to like actually manipulating and having these fate
Yeah.
tokens or whatever you want, and like doling them out and seeing like, it gets to be a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And I think
And
that can slow down
so
encounters.
that's what's weird, right? So Savage Worlds for me has these multiple different, I call them gimmicks. You've got the
Yeah,
card gimmick, you've got the Benny's gimmick, you now have the wild die gimmick. Three different
yeah,
things, all of which you're using at the same time
yeah, all of them.
on
Yeah.
top of your normal rolls. A game that also is not as fast as D&D necessarily, but I like the age system by Green Ronin, whether it's Fantasy Age, Dragon Age, Modern Age. You roll 3d6, you have a dragon die if it's Dragon Age, or a stunt die, I think is what it's called in the others. If you get any
Hmm.
doubles and you succeeded, the one of the d6s, one of the three that's the different color, is how many stunt points or dragon points you get. You refer to a chart for something you want to do with that many points, whether it's one or two or three things, whatever. You can do those things. Technically, that slows that down, but it's one gimmick, right? I have no problems with that system because it's one thing that can slow things down, but it also lets
Yeah.
you do cool shit. Like things you couldn't normally do. You're like, oh, well, now that I hit it with my sword, but I got these points that I can now do a combo. And everyone I've played with, they spruce it up a little with their description, and it's fun. When I play Savage Worlds, it becomes a numbers game. It's not even like narrative. Like I know it should be, but I
Yeah.
very rarely have I seen a player who's rolling a wild die. They're like sitting there adding it up in their head, and then someone else saying, "Well, that's that," because that's the other thing. I've had someone at the table telling the other person what they have. This person's still in their
Hmm.
head thinking about it, and then the game master says, "Oh, well, that's that." And so then there's that. There's no narrative about what their attack looks like. It's just, oh, I got 3 raises. Like, and so it becomes talking numbers, which also is not a visual thing, but they say the dice tell the narrative story, and I'm like, I see how it could, but what is
Yeah.
3 raises compared to 2 raises if I hit with both? There's no difference, like that I know of. I mean, maybe there is a mechanical difference, but visually, I'm not seeing anything different in my head, So I don't know. But I'm the only
Yeah.
person. Like when I talk about Savage Worlds with anybody, I'm the only person who ever seems to have strong convictions for not liking that game. Everybody either loves it or they enjoy
Gives it
it
a
but don't
pass.
love it.
See?
And I feel like I'm crazy. I feel like
No,
I'm
no. I think
absolutely
that I think
crazy.
it's I think that's well warranted. I think your opinions have weight. All right.
I
I think you
appreciate that.
played enough of this. So I'm validating it.
But you don't agree. You like the game, right?
I don't think I've played enough of it to truly, because I've
Mm,
played, the only part I've played is like the Deadlands. Played a few sessions of the
okay.
Deadlands, and in it I was like, I again, like you, I did not like card initiative. I
Yeah.
still don't, but I was like, all right, well, this is Deadlands. It's thematic,
Yeah.
right? Like it's Wild West. We got
Yeah.
cards, people playing poker, Texas Hold'em, whatever. So I was like, all right, it's thematic. Um, but yeah, but we were also playing with like a very small group. We only had like
Okay.
3 people, you
Okay.
know, and the game master was quite new to the system. So I
Mm,
expected it to go slow anyways, you know what I
yeah.
mean? So I didn't really have any like big high hopes for it. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, let's shit. All right, sweet. I've heard
Right.
good stuff about Deadlands, and let's see what can happen. And we played a couple sessions, and it
Yeah.
really didn't go anywhere. But I really didn't put it against the system. I wasn't like, nah, this game sucks. I was
Yeah.
just like, I was just
Like,
like,
I
well,
don't think the game sucks because clearly people love it. Like, it does really well. Anyone who makes an IP for it seems to succeed. People back the Kickstarters. Like, even Pathfinder has been adapted to Savage Worlds. Like, heck, Savage
they gotta be doing
Rifts,
some right.
you
They gotta
know,
be doing something right. That's what I'm
right.
saying. Like,
And I think Savage Rifts is a better system than Palladium Books. Even though I don't want to play Savage Rifts really, and I only want to play the Palladium, like my version of the Palladium version, like,
yeah,
but I do believe that the Savage Worlds version is the better system. It's just not the system for me. You know what I mean? I think it's better designed. Um, yeah, I wanted so badly to love that system. Like I tried so hard. And I would love if I woke up tomorrow and loved that system. I just don't. I think as I get older, I do want quicker games and simpler games. I'm not
Yeah,
saying that's
definitely.
not a simple game, but it's definitely not quick by my experiences. And there's too many gimmicks. I don't want all the gimmicks. Just get me back to simpler games, simpler resolutions. That's all. That's all I
Simple
want.
time. It's beautiful. Simple time.
Look, I
You
told you I'll
just
play. I'll play.
the charm.
I'll make my own
No, this is
character
more.
and I'll play.
This is more for the viewers. This is more
No,
for me proselytizing for the viewers. All right, you guys need to play this. Play this game. It's free.
this one's not free.
It's
But
free.
this book's like $25. Thick. Thick boy.
Free. And they actually have a retro clone of this out too. Um, basic. I forget what it's called. It's something. It's like, but it's essentially this with the serial numbers filed off.
Yeah.
It's literally the basic revised set with it even like it even has like the same art, like kind of art style as well. So
We need to figure
really sweet.
this out.
No, we definitely need to figure that out.
This is the one we
Absolutely,
need to play.
absolutely.
The X-Men book comes out in a couple months too.
Oh yeah, I'm getting that.
Yeah.
I've seen that one that you held up for like 20 on eBay, so I'm gonna see if I can
Target
pick it
sells it
up.
too. I
Oh,
have a really
Target? It's in Target?
yeah, I've seen this and the adventure the Cataclysm of Kang at Target. So
Oh
all
yeah,
Targets. I've seen it like at multiple Targets. This is going to be a popular game. And I think obviously with Disney Plus doing all like the Marvel stuff and then
yeah,
the
yeah,
X-Men cartoons taking off, I think you can
definitely.
get some people. And like they're staying kind of on brand with what's happening with everything. Like obviously the X-Men thing's coming out soon.
Yeah.
X-Men cartoon just came back, so you're gonna have that. Like they have a Spider-Man thing coming out, I think, next year. So I think that's gonna probably cover the different Spider-Mans. Not really
Mhm.
sure on that. Obviously, Kang is a big deal in the MCU, so
Definitely.
that matters.
So Kang is like, it's kind of weird that they have him without the Fantastic Four, because he is like a Fantastic Four, like classic villain.
Aren't they
And I
doing? They're
know,
redoing the Fantastic Four, aren't they?
yeah, but I don't think they're gonna have Kang in it. I don't think.
Well,
I
originally
mean, they
Kang was
could.
supposed to be the Thanos of the next like 10, 15 years. He was supposed
Oh,
to be. But then he got in
that
trouble for
wouldn't.
domestic abuse.
Oh yeah,
The
what you
actor
call it?
did.
Jonathan Majors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Well, I mean, they could always because like it's time,
I
universal
wish they
time
would just
shenanigans.
recast and stick with what their
Uh,
plan was.
it really wouldn't be that big of a deal for them to recast him. I don't know why, but yeah, but
Yeah.
no, Kang as a villain though, he is first of all, he's a hilarious concept when you really think about it, right?
Mhm.
He's
So I don't know a lot
he's
about him other than the MCU stuff.
okay, so basically, right?
Educate
Like the
me.
first oh, okay, so this is again part. This is going to be bastardized as well, right? Because remember,
Sure.
I don't read all that much, but I read some of the big stuff. So Kang, he is a guy kind of like how like Reverse Flash, he was like,
Yes.
oh, I'm a guy from the future, and I'm just going to steal Barry Allen's suit
Your
and just go back
ability.
in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kang basically did like he was like, "Oh, I'm a guy from the future, and I'm gonna steal a time machine, and I'm gonna go back to
Who's
like
actually from the
ancient."
past.
Yeah,
He's a guy from the
he's
future who's actually from the past.
he's a guy from the future who's actually from the past.
Right?
But
Isn't it
no,
from like the
he's
1700s or something?
no. Kang actually no. He's from the future. He's like so he stole something, and he's like, I'm gonna go back to like ancient Egypt so I can set myself up as a pharaoh because of course. Why wouldn't I, right? I'm going to
Yeah.
be a god. I'm
No.
going to be a living.
Doesn't
Yeah.
sound like anything I want to do. I need
Yeah. I don't want to live in any
modern
have
comforts
like
like
plumbing.
AC.
And yeah, they don't have AC, plumbing. It's
Right.
like we don't have sanitation. Nobody's washing their hands. Like, no,
Right.
fuck that. But no, apparently he thought that was cool because I mean, I guess he brought back a toilet with him. So, um, so,
Yeah.
so yeah, so then he's beefing with the Fantastic Four because they do stuff,
Yep.
and they beat him. But because he has a time machine, he's just like, well, screw you. I'm just gonna go back even further and try some other shenanigans. And then he starts meeting alternate versions of himself because he's
Mhm.
doing so many time shenanigans. And it's like, oh, and he starts teaming up with alternate versions of himself. And
Yep.
he actually meets a version of himself who is like essentially a keeper of time, where he's like, hey, I'm you from the far, far future after you've tried all your stupid plots and your petty conquests, right? And the powers that be are making me pay for your crimes. Okay? You need to stop. But I know you're not going to because I'm here. Because
Right.
you have to do what you have to do so I can be here and pay for your crimes. But you're me, but I'm you, and this is stupid.
Super meta discussion. Yeah.
And yeah, they're having these super meta discussions, and eventually he becomes like a tragic figure, right? Like,
Yeah.
and they even introduce like Kid Kang, where it's like this is a younger version of Kang who he has to be what he has to be, right? He's destined to go down this path. He's going
Mhm.
to or there will always be a version of him that goes down this path, and Kang works as like an Avengers villain, like because obviously he started as FF, but like he works as
Yeah.
an Avengers villain because he's essentially unbeatable. Like really, like there's always another Kang,
Mhm.
and like he always gets like the last laugh, or he can always retreat, or like do something or other, right? And sometimes there have been whole arcs where like the Avengers have to help him fight another version of himself,
Mhm.
and it's like, what? And it just is really trippy,
Yeah. It goes too
like
much. A little much.
it gets a lot, but it makes sense that he would be like the a big bad for the Avengers, because I mean he has in the comics, and yeah, a villain of that kind of like, you can do a lot of things with that, like philosophically. You
Yeah.
can do a lot of things with that, like, of course, like creatively, right? Because you can like, oh well, this is the Kang from the timeline where the Wild West never died, and they're
Right.
doing twin shooters, and or this is the
Yeah.
Kang from when World War II, or
It
Germany
seems
won World
too
War II, and
goofy.
all,
It's like I don't
it is
mind it. I
yeah.
don't mind it, but it almost seems a little too goofy at times for me. And again, I don't mind it, but I don't get excited about Kang. Like Kang is whatever to
His
me.
outfit sucks. His outfits, his like
Yeah.
traditional outfit is.
Yeah.
I
He
hate
doesn't excite me.
it.
I remember when we found out there was going to be different like Avengers arcs and stuff. I wanted an X-Men theme. Like so again, I love X-Men. That's where I go back to. Like I would love if Apocalypse was the bad guy. However, I thought it couldn't be the second story arc because Thanos and Apocalypse are big guy. Like it would almost seem too not similar, but you know what I mean. Like a very powerful guy who's bigger and stronger than everybody. Like visually, it would have been a little bit too similar. So I think you had to mix
Yeah.
it up in the middle somehow. And like I wanted a supervillain team, like Doctor
Oh,
Doom, Red Skull, like and maybe you could have Kang orchestrate something like that. Like go into time
yeah.
and pull different bad guys, maybe bad guys who have died, and dropped them in one spot. I would have been cool with that because then like oh you need Captain America for Red Skull, you need this for that, and now it makes sense why people are unifying because all of their enemies have sided and now they got to beat
Uh-huh.
them. That's what I wanted to see. I thought that would have been way better, and you could have pulled in different superheroes than the first time as well. You know, and then the next big bad, I want Apocalypse, but they're not going to do that. So I don't know if X
What
Men's real popular, they might, but
what was the Apocalypse, like, or like, well, the one Apocalypse live action movie that they did do, the whole Age of Apocalypse? They're all like, they were so
it was done by
subdued with him.
Sony, I think, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sony's done all the
But
bad
but
movies.
but it was just so weird because, like, in no disrespect toward the actor, because what's his name? he's great. Like I liked
Mhm.
him in the Star Wars film, and he's
Yeah.
been in like other things I've liked. But um, like yeah, like the whole them playing Apocalypse, like I think Apocalypse was way too subdued. He is an over the top villain. He is, in fact, one
He's
of his main
immortal.
powers.
He's got all sorts of abilities.
Yeah, one of his main powers, right, is he can modify his body about just about any. He has he can manipulate his body on a molecular level,
Yep.
like and of course they use it in the comics to do silly stuff, right? Like him turning his arm into you see it in
Like a
like the
hammer.
Marvel versus Capcom. Yeah, he turns him into a hammer, and he's
Yep.
he's doing Mr. Fantastic shit basically. But like he also does this thing that I like where he just literally just makes himself bigger and imposing, right? Where he's
Yeah.
like, I and he represents his philosophy of might makes right, right?
Hmm.
And the strongest survive. It fits with he's like, oh, I'm bigger than you, I'm badder than you, and it's you could do I don't know you could it just seems like they never do him right in the in the movies,
I almost
or in
feel
the
like
one
they're
movie they
worried
have.
about making a villain who is super powerful and nearly unstoppable because
Yeah.
then it's like hard to beat them. How are they going to write it in a way that makes sense to beat the guy? Like, I feel like that's the problem, right? Like, well, how can we have him beat him? Or what has stopped him for thousands of years from taking over the world before? Or like, there are some story things that's like, well, he could just take it by force, like tomorrow, especially since they can't stop him ever. Like, really, it's just his being lazy. That's why he hasn't done it. Like, you know,
I don't know. I always thought it was like kind of a hubris thing as to why he didn't do it. Like, or him kind of like kind of like how Thanos believed like what he was doing was like a sort of like uh,
for the
a sort
betterment.
of kindness, yeah, or
Yeah,
betterness for people. I think he truly like Apocalypse truly believes that like
he's a
if he
god.
lets yeah, if well that too, but if he lets people fight and like lets people like and let them like let God sort them out as you will, like the cream are gonna rise to the top,
Right.
and he actually wants that. He wants people to find. He wants people to believe in his philosophy, and he needs people like yeah, he can just conquer the earth any day or whatever, but like that wouldn't prove his point all the way, anyways.
I mean, he wants
You
to
know,
rule the world, right? That's his thing. He wants to be the most powerful being in the universe and rule everything, right? Isn't that
well,
his
yeah,
thing?
that's part of his thing, yeah, definitely. But like he also does like truly believe in like because the culture he was brought up in, like he had to fight and he had to fight in the desert and like people outcasted him
Because he was the
and
first
he
mutant.
yeah because he was basically the first mutant, yeah.
Hmm.
And so like and so for him to see that and see how mutant kind progresses, he is kind of like this antediluvian like threat, this like a Kane figure, if you will, like he's the first one, to do it. He's the first one to run into these issues that all the mutants are, that the X-Men's dealing with. He's the first one to actually really come up with an idea, I guess. And yeah, so I think he actually like cares about the mutants in some way. At least that's what
Okay.
I got from when I read Age of Apocalypse a little bit. But
Yeah, he
also
does have slave pens, though.
but also he does have slave pens though. You know what I
Like,
mean? Like
he
it's
doesn't
one of
like them that much.
that's what I'm saying. Like it's like like how much like I don't know. It really
He works
depends
with
on his
Sinister a
writing.
lot too,
Yeah,
to
he gave
to
Sinister his
mess with
powers, dude.
to mess with
Yeah.
people and experiment on them. And
I guess he's just like, all right, well, maybe if I'm trying to make these people stronger, and like anyone else who's not as strong, like they don't, maybe in some twisted way he's trying to like make a guy who's actually better than him. Maybe I don't know. They probably go over that in one of the
oh,
arcs,
I'm
but
sure. I'm sure. Yeah.
yeah. But again, it
But
depends
he's
on
a
who's writing
yeah. So like he's a tough one. Like he's easily my favorite villain. Like hands down. Always has been since I was a kid. And like I hated how the original cartoons did him. like for the most part. Like
His
I
voice
was
is
like,
kind of funny.
yeah, like it's like okay, he can time travel. Why? What? If he can time travel and he's this powerful, there's nothing that should be able to stop him. Like nothing.
No, so that was the episode when yeah, because he there was an episode where he stole Cable's because Cable has a satellite like that lets
Yeah, it's
him
that cube
times
thing, right?
yeah. Yeah, that's basically the box for it, but
Hmm.
it's an actual satellite though in
Oh, okay.
space.
Hmm.
Yeah, like he that's how he teleports
Yeah, because then
or
he gets
slip.
stuck in between times or whatever with that
Yeah,
one
that
crazy
happens.
guy,
Oh yeah,
the
with
loud, laughy guy.
yes, that happens with him. But no,
I
so
also
yeah,
want
he
to see
stole
a,
that now.
um,
So,
I also want to see a cinematic version of Mojo at some point.
Mojo would be, dude. Why haven't they done Mojo yet?
I
Oh
don't
my
know.
God,
Wouldn't that
Mojo's
be
a
hilarious?
no-brainer. No, because they could do the whole meta commentary. Because that's Mojo is
Yeah,
literally just like
it's
them
perfect for
making
the
fun of
MCU.
perfect. It would, bro. That's a no-brainer for them. That's crazy they haven't done that
Hmm.
yet.
Yeah.
If they could pull them off too, because nobody like really cares about them like that. They could, you know
Yep.
what I mean? And then they can introduce Spiral, have Spiral fucking beating up some mutants and shit.
There's so many things,
Long
man.
shot.
Long
Yeah,
shot's
long
great.
shot's cool. Man, yeah, man, that's a damn, that's a missed
Wouldn't it be
opportunity.
great in a Deadpool movie?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Mojo and Deadpool.
Mojo and Dip,
You could do a whole movie just on that.
Mojo
Just
and
for fun,
Deadpool, just for Mojo and Deadpool is
a standalone thing.
crazy. That would actually be crazy, man. That nah, that would fill seats. That would fill seats straight up.
Hell yeah!
That would
And then
fill.
people be like, "This Mojo guy's great. What's he?" And then they'd be like, "Oh, he's in like all sorts of shit."
He's mostly an X-Men villain though.
Yeah,
I mean he's like 90% X-Men.
but
I don't think I've
Longshot
seen
had his
him.
own series, didn't he?
Yeah, but long shot he's kind of X-Men adjacent though. Like
Kinda,
he's not
but
the
he's
most
also not from Earth, right?
yeah, he's a human that's based off because like in Mojo's world, humans are like demons or something like mythology speaking, like in his
Mm,
mythology, humans are demons. Like
gotcha,
they're or they have demons that are like humans, but they're not actually the same. So
gotcha.
so so yeah, so when he was making his whole like TV shows, reality TV shows, he was like, oh well, there's a universe filled with these demons. Maybe we could like engineer our own and make them fight to the death. And that's
Right,
why they don't care about them because like they think like it's like oh well they look just like demons in mythology. Like who gives a shit if they kill each other? Like isn't that what they
right.
do anyways? Like that's,
I mean, yeah, that's what we do. We kill each other over here.
we kill each other over
We
here
blow each
for
other up.
sure. We definitely unfortunately. So
Awesome.
yeah, man.
Mojo's one that I want to see. But anyways, I should wrap up. I did not expect us to have this much conversation.
We've been having hella fun with
I
it.
enjoy it. I enjoy it. I could do this all the time. So I am going to end there. Quickly, if there's anything you want to promote, your YouTube channel, any of your social media, Let's Quest again, any of that, feel free.
Again, Golden Buddha, the Golden Buddha, YouTube, check it out, or you can type in the Golden Buddha RPG. You should be able to find it. And also, Let's Quest. That's the organization. Let's Quest. It's really cool, and yeah, I hope to see you guys on my stream. You know, maybe tune in, watch us do some crazy. This guy might even be here. He might be playing. Who knows, man? Who knows?
Hell yeah. I'm excited to play Star Wars with you. I think that'll be a good time.
Oh, dude, it's gonna be great, man. I
We're going to
gotta.
be playing Star Wars over on BN Drake's YouTube channel starting next week, I think, or in a few weeks. I don't remember the
The
exact date.
30th.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so
next week.
next week. Yeah,
So that'll be a
it's
good
gonna be awesome.
time. And there's going to be 2 Star Wars campaigns running side by side over on that channel. And yeah, go check out Golden Buddha, all of his stuff, his reviews, all that good stuff. And maybe in the future, you'll also see him here again on this channel because we clearly have a lot we could talk about. So with that, guys, thank you for watching. We will see you guys next time. Game on.